wanted this.
Are you not entertained? Is that why you are here?
This is it. Don't get scared.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry flicking Christmas! Welcome back to a brand new Flick Pick live show. This is it. Don't get scared now. And by the way, Party Poppers are back. So if you have a glorious, magical, mystical question that's $5 and over, my big thanks to you is blowing a Party Popper right in your face. So thank you and Merry Christmas. But with all of that said, we have a loaded live show tonight. There's a lot to talk about, maybe too much to talk about. But one of the first main topics we need to talk about are those tall blue alien people that I just love. Some people hate them, some people love them. But on the new movie, I'm somewhere in the middle. But we're going to go to Pandora momentarily, so just hang on to your butts. We're going to talk all about Avatar: Fire and Ash. And then we're going to talk about Christopher Nolan's brand new movie coming out this summer. We got our first look at the trailer yesterday, The Odyssey. I have a lot to say about this trailer, and I hope you do too. Also, I want to talk about an upcoming TV series that gets me really excited, and if you know me, you know how much of a hardcore fan I am of Point Break, because it was never about the money, man. It was about us against the system, showing that the human spirit's still alive while everyone else inches down the freeways in their metal coffins. Utah, get me two. Get me two. I'm so hungry I could eat the ass end out of a dead rhino. I love me some Gary Busey. We're going to talk all about the upcoming Point Break series. And then we're going to talk about another big trailer that was just released, Avengers Doomsday. I also have a lot to say about that trailer as well. And then, if we have time, we'll talk about Sydney Sweeney in the movie The Housemaid, which I actually really enjoyed. So, if you guys have any thoughts, feelings, opinions, please get those in now about those main topics. And then, as always, we will dive into your questions towards the end of the live show. And by the end of the live show, I mean in about 45 minutes to an hour. So if you have questions, get those in as well. We will dive into all of those. So hold on to your butts. Here we go. And by the way, how are you guys doing? It's almost Christmas. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. And with all of that, I got my infamous Macaulay Culkin sweater on. I love it. I love it. Probably my favorite shirt I own, and I can only wear it a couple days out of the year. If you do it too much, people start judging you. They think you're crazy. They're like, what are you doing? I don't know. But anyway, I love when I have a giant picture of a young 8-year-old boy on my shirt screaming. What does that say about me? It says I love Home Alone. All right. And at some point, I'm sure during this live show, we will dive into a rant about the Pigeon Lady. Or at least I hope we do. Okay. So with all that, we got Dustin Rich in here. We got James Dozier. We got a few other members. And please say hi. I'm looking at you guys, looking at me. I see you. All right, so for the first main topic, I feel like we have to talk about Avatar: Fire and Ash. Now, when it comes to the Avatar franchise, I will always support it. I think it's a spectacle, it's visually stimulating, and every time I go to see an Avatar movie, even if the story is somewhat subpar, and like this movie where it's 3.5 hours long, where it basically retreads every plot point from the first two movies for half of the movie, I still enjoy these movies because when you go to a theater, and I don't know about you, but for me, I want that visual escapism. I want to feel like I'm transported to another dimension, and the Avatar movies from a master filmmaker like James Cameron gives me that experience. Okay, so I don't have any nitpicks with the visual, the escapism. These feel like big, expensive movies, and even with the subpar story that sort of retreads the previous two installments, I still feel like it's worth my money to go see these movies in the theater. I never feel cheated. But objectively, I will say that this movie didn't necessarily need to be as long as it did or retread every single plot point from the first two movies, where it sort of bogged down the pacing ever so slightly. But we'll get there. So when it comes to Avatar, back in 2009, when I saw that first Avatar movie, I was blown away by it. I loved every single second of it. And I was one of those hardcore fanatics that would get on Reddit at 3 o'clock in the morning looking up details or plot rumors or the release date for the next Avatar movie. And that took like 13 or 14 years, and I made countless videos along the way saying, hey, it's probably going to be in 2 years. It's going to be in 2 more years. Well, you know, I think I blatantly lied for about 8 years making those false promises that Reddit promised me. But in 2022, we got Avatar 2. And then just 3 years after that, this year, just 3 days ago, we got Avatar 3, Fire and Ash. And then supposedly at some point in 2029, we're supposed to get Avatar 4. And then by the time I'm an old man crapping myself in diapers, or at least I hope I am, I'm really looking forward to that point in my life, but that's neither here nor there. We might just get Avatar 5, the finale of this franchise. And the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, do we still really need 5 Avatar movies? And I'm going to answer that question right now. Objectively speaking, that is. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say James Cameron has had almost 4+ hours of actual runtime to tell this story. And what he did in this movie, and this is the biggest complaint I have with Avatar Fire and Ash, and I will dive into all the positives and some cool stuff I liked along the way. If he didn't spend half of the runtime of this movie, an hour and a half of this movie, at least, just telling us stuff we already know, recreating scenes we've literally already seen, but changing it up just a little bit to make it feel slightly new, but it's still exactly the same thing, I really feel like he could have concluded this entire franchise within the next movie, making a 5th movie obsolete and not needed. Now, in the name of the game is money, and that's what Hollywood is. It's a business. So if you can drag this shit out another 15 years and make a couple more sequels, I guess they'll get more money in the long run. But man, I don't know if we technically need it. All right, so when it comes to this movie, one of my favorite aspects about it, besides the visuals, because it looks pretty awesome at times, was I enjoyed the first act of the movie quite a bit. It kind of felt new. It felt fresh. They weren't retreading everything. And that first act of this movie, there's some illogic happening from some characters. And that's another negative I have before I talk about a positive. I got to get the negatives out of the way. They're eating me alive. Let me just spit them out. They're like battery acid in my mouth. I got to get them out. A lot of the character logic throughout Avatar Fire and Ash just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like Jake Sully, for example, this overprotective father who understands that there's a threat. He kind of militarizes his family, and he's very, very specific on his directions, and he's very hard on his kids. That way no one gets hurt and makes stupid choices. But within the first 20 minutes of this movie, he sort of makes a big stupid choice. And a lot of characters do that throughout the film for the sake of, I guess, plot convenience or just having the story go somewhere else. And I was like, okay, I can live with things like that. But the first act of this movie, there's this huge action set piece that takes place where they're going from one location to another. And that's our first introduction to another tribe on Pandora called the Wind People. They basically travel in these giant air balloons ships that look like something that you would have seen out of Waterworld, if you know what I'm talking about. And I quite enjoyed that. It actually, you know what those airborne ships look like in Avatar Fire and Ash? They look like the same airborne ship in The Mummy 2 that they transport on to go somewhere. Anyway, and they're pulled by giant floating stingrays. And I quite enjoyed that. But then, the coolest thing that happened during that was they're attacked by the evil Fire and Ash tribe. And they are the antagonists of this story. And I liked having an evil tribe that existed on Pandora, evil Na'vi. I think it was something new and fresh, and I liked how sinister they were. And this movie does sort of get dark at times. There's some dark shit that is happening throughout this movie. There's a lot of themes that it explores, and I appreciated those things, especially with the one Sully kid who... There's sort of a dark moment where he just can't take it any longer, and he's blaming himself. He has a lot of guilt. And he almost does something that's like, whoa, okay, I kind of like what you're doing with this movie, James Cameron, but it's very short-lived. But anyway, as far as that big action set piece goes with the evil Fire and Ash tribe and the Wind tribe with the Sully family caught right in the middle, it sort of gave me like Mad Max Fury Road vibes. At one point, it almost felt like they were doing like a War Boy sort of recreation where you go, witness me, and you just turn into a kamikaze with an explosion in your hand and jump on something for it to blow up. It literally felt like James Cameron was inspired by Mad Max Fury Road for that sequence. And hey, I'm okay with all of those things. But let's talk about the main antagonist of this movie, and that is played by Stephen Lang, and that's Colonel Quidditch. Anyway, he plays a 9-foot-tall evil blue alien man. And when it comes to Stephen Lang's performance as the antagonist in these movies, I've always enjoyed his performance. Yeah, that's what I call two in the bush, Jake Sully. All right. They will pluck your eyes out and eat them like juju beans. I like that. I like that 90s simplistic, tough guy dialogue from James Cameron. And I like his character for the most part. But let's go back to those illogical character decisions throughout this entire movie. And there's a lot of them. His character is so opposed to the Na'vi lifestyle. And for the last two movies, they sort of hinted that he might give in to it to some degree. And he sort of pushes it away. Every time Jake Sully is like, hey man, there's more to life. You can be one with the people. You don't got to listen to these military douchebags. You can be one with the Na'vi and live a lifestyle. You're not that old guy anymore. You have a new life. And basically, without spoilers, and I'm just going to summarize this very briefly, his character basically has a midlife crisis, gets a new girlfriend, and just loses his shit. and the way he just dives into this entire new lifestyle, I'm like, so you're going to go for it completely this direction, but it just didn't make any sense in the last movie for you. Okay, I got it. Whatever, man. But anyway, let's talk about the other main antagonist of the film, and that was played by Una something here. Oh yeah, Una Chaplin, who plays Vargan? I don't know. Whatever the evil Fire and Ash tribe leader's name is. And I liked her character because she's unrelenting. She's just pure evil. She worships volcanoes and hates everybody. And she just wants those boom booms. That's what she calls guns. And I liked her character for the most part. I thought that was one of the best performances in the movie. So, you know, I like the Fire and Ash tribe. But going back to that first act, at one point, this movie sort of turns into Apocalypto. And if you've never seen Apocalypto, it takes place hundreds of years ago. It talks about the Aztec tribes, and there's basically one big chase scene of one evil tribe chasing one guy through the jungle. And that's sort of what the first act of Avatar Fire and Ash is. And that worked for me. I liked that. But then, after all that happens, in the second act, the movie sort of does one big circle where you just start over again. And then from there, it sort of just gives you a plot point and beat for beat of things you've already seen in the previous two Avatar films. There's literally a sequence with the one teenage Sully kid and a whale that I saw like 3 times in the previous movie. They just keep repeating it. There's a scene that I almost thought like, wait, is that the same scene? No, they change it just a little bit to make it slightly different. Now let's talk about the whales in this movie. Oh, there's a lot of whales talking. And their dialogue, I guess when it comes to a whale, it's sort of hard to write dialogue, isn't it, James Cameron? I mean, what do whales say? What do they talk about? Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but they just have very generic language. We'll put it that way. And don't get me wrong. I like seeing intelligent, large, giant mammals on Pandora, having conversations with the Na'vi and kicking some ass. I liked those things, but it was their scenes where they're talking almost became unintentionally comedic to me. And there's like 5 or 6 of those scenes, and you're just like, okay, what are we gonna get from this? And if you want a recommendation, because this is a very long movie, when to get up and use a bathroom break or get a refill in your popcorn, whenever you see a whale talking, that's probably a safe bet to get up, because not much is really happening with the plot at that point in the movie. So there's that. Another thing I enjoyed was you see a couple returning characters come back, and they sort of felt like cartoon characters. Like one of the main corporate bad guys makes a return in this movie, and he's walking around without pants on at one point, and you're just like, what is happening here? But I want to talk about the character Kiri, played by Sigourney Weaver. Now, this is like a teenage Na'vi character. And, I'm not going to say anything I haven't already said about this character. But she's basically Blue Jesus of Iwa, right? She's one with Iwa. She connects to it. She has supernatural abilities. And some of that stuff's really cool. But the one thing that always takes me out of that character is it's voiced by Sigourney Weaver. Now, they're doing some kind of digital filter on her voice to make her sound 60 years younger than she is. But Sigourney Weaver is a great actress, by all means. But she sounds like a 70-year-old woman. And when you put that voice on like a teenage Na'vi, she has this like weird withering voice pattern. And it just sounds like an old lady. And it just takes me out of it. It sounds bizarre. But I will say this. My least favorite character in Avatar The Way of Water and Avatar Fire and Ash has to be the character Spider. Or as they call him, Monkey Boy. Or Jack Champion. Whatever you want to call him. Now, he sort of gives me vibes of like a 1990s surfer kid from the West Coast. And I just feel like he's sort of like the worst thing about this movie. And he has one of the biggest subplots and roles in the movie. A lot of stuff revolves around this character because he's all forgiving, And there's one scene in this movie that I sort of thought to myself, if I were him, how could you ever forgive Jake Sully? Like, for the thing that he was about to do, how could you forgive this man? But he's very forgiving. So there's that. Also sort of like a Jesus Christ character, if you will. But anyway, Jack Champion's performance in this movie, I would say was sort of bad at best. And, and hey, in all fairness to him, maybe if he was a blue Na'vi, that would have masked the bad acting performance. But it just, when you're looking at him run around in the jungle, and keep in mind, the reason that his character exists is it's our perspective of these other blue alien characters. That way we never forget the perspective that these are 12 foot tall aliens. And this is how tall an actual human is. So he's just to remind the audience that, yeah, these are aliens and this is what a human looks like. But yeah, there's a lot of time dedicated to his character. And I just feel like nothing really ever comes about. And that's my biggest complaint going back to this movie. It sort of just feels like we keep doing one big circle. A couple new things happen. There's some fun, cool, awesome scenes of spectacle and action and mayhem, especially during the third act of this movie, that look like a huge fight that you would have saw in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, for example. But it just feels like not enough new is happening to propel this story to justify a 3.5 hour runtime. Really, if you just included all the new shit you see in this movie would have been under 2 hours. Easily. But with all that said, I still enjoyed the journey for the most part. I liked how dark it got at some moments, and I do think the visuals are getting better with every new installment of this franchise. But man, I don't know if this movie is going to get a lot of rewatchability from me. And I feel like in about 2 weeks, maybe 3, I'll even push it to 4. I feel like the conversation for Avatar Fire and Ash will probably be extinguished. And not to say that the movie's not going to make a lot of money. It's already made like $400 million in the last couple of days. The Christmas break is still upon us, and that is one of the most pivotal times at the box office for films. Trust me, I used to be an usher at a movie theater, and Christmas time was the busiest time. Why? I'll tell you why. Because when you get together with your family around the holidays, it's nice to spend time with them, but you don't necessarily want to engage with them. You don't want to talk to your family. No. We don't have anything new to say. It's the same shit we talked about last Christmas. Hey, Billy, how's your new job going? Okay, that's cool. I don't give a shit. How about we go see a new movie at the box office? That way we can all spend time together as a family. We can look up at a screen. We're together, but we don't have to talk. And that's the beauty of cinema around the holidays, folks. Trust me, I recommend it. But anyway, back to my point. The holiday season for the box office is a very busy time. So I have no doubt that this movie is going to make a shit ton of cash over the next week or two. It lends itself perfectly for a family to go watch a big spectacle action blockbuster movie. So, it's going to make a lot of money. I just feel like the conversation for these movies is dying out quicker and quicker with every new installment. Or at least that's the way I feel about it. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about Avatar Fire and Ash? Did you like it? Did you love it? Or did you just not care about it? Or did you go watch it? I would recommend checking it out. And I will say this, as far as like a 3D experience goes, say what you will about Avatar movies, even if you hate them, Avatar justifies the existence of watching 3D in the cinema. It looks top-notch, it's subtle, it's perfect, and James Cameron knows what he's doing. But let's talk about James Cameron just for 1 second. Now, James Cameron has wasted the last 20 years of his life making Avatar movies. Now, I'm glad we got the first Avatar movie. And, I think the detriment to this franchise is it's taken too long in between movies. Had between 2009 and 2020 we got 3 or 4 Avatar movies, I think that would have been good. I think that everyone would have been still on board. They would have wanted to go to Pandora each and every time. But when you drag this out like they are for 20 years, it just, interest is going to sway. But anyway, going back to James Cameron, I'm a huge fan of James Cameron. The way he shoots a movie with the wide scope of it, the spectacle, the blockbuster, James Cameron just knows how to make a movie look expensive. And probably because his movies are expensive. But I just watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day the other night. And I think it's on Netflix. And man, I've seen that movie probably 100+ times, but every time I come across it and I'm like, I'm going to watch 20 minutes of this movie, I end up watching the entirety of the movie. And it just reminded me though, like James Cameron, man, I wish he was making different movies than just Avatar movies. I don't know. It just feels like a wasted potential. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, those are my quick thoughts on Avatar Fire and Ash. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I'd probably give it like a solid, I wouldn't go solid. I'd give it like a B- as far as an Avatar movie goes. I definitely recommend seeing it in theaters, but it's not one of those movies I'm going to feel the urge to rewatch over and over again. But also, some final flicking thoughts on the movie Avatar Fire and Ash. There is some interesting concepts that they do explore in this movie. I just wish they would have stuck with them a little bit longer than they did. And I will say this movie picks up immediately after the events of Avatar: The Way of Water. And also, on top of that, I've heard that James Cameron basically injected a lot of ideas in this movie that he couldn't put in The Way of Water, which makes complete sense, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this movie's a copy and paste retread for half of the film. There are cool scenes that you see in this movie, but the setup to get to those scenes are plot points that you saw in The Way of Water. So he basically had to recreate those setups to get to a really cool scene to put it in this new movie. It's almost like he made half of the same movie again, just to include new scenes that he couldn't get to in the previous movie. And then he gave you some new shit along the way. That's sort of what this movie feels like. It's like retread, something new, retread, a scene that he wanted to put in the previous movie, retread, new thing, and then retread. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Avatar, Fire and Ash. What do you say? We just go to the next topic. And by the way, let me see what you guys had to say about Avatar, Fire and Ash. Dustin Rich says, I think I don't care. Yeah, that's where I'm getting at. Listen, if they can finally do something with Earth in the next Avatar movie and finalize this franchise, I think the next movie's where you need to do it. Dustin Rich says, I see talking whales all the time. Sometimes they have blue hair or nose rings. Well, the whales in this movie actually do have nose rings. And I guess the Na'vi maybe installed them for them because whales don't have opposable thumbs. So I don't know how they did that. All right. We're long overdue for a flick trip, John. Well, give me a time and a place and something to buy, and maybe I'll make one. I wish James Cameron would have did the Matrix style in the movie and shot all of the movies, 3 films, and released it every year. Yeah, I just don't think they have the time or energy to do it, man. I feel like they're trying to shoot as much as they can all in one go, but I feel like they're sort of just waiting to see how much money this movie made before they make the next 2 installments. But I've heard that the first act of the next movie was already shot. So there's that. All right, let's go to the next main topic here today. And what do you guys say? We talk about the brand new upcoming movie from Christopher Nolan, The Odyssey, a poem by Homer. Now, when it comes to Greek mythology and ancient time period movies, I'm a huge sucker for those movies. I'm a dude who loves movies like Gladiator. I love Troy. Troy is my jam, you sack of wine. So basically, I love a good sword and sandals flick. So when it comes to The Odyssey, it's one of my most anticipated movies of next summer. Now, do I love every single Christopher Nolan movie? No. And I would say my criticisms with him as a director really started to kick in with something like Tenet. I just feel like sometimes he gets a little indulgent in his Christopher Nolan ways, but he's still a master filmmaker, and he believes in shooting movies on film with practical effects. And when it comes to The Odyssey, it was entirely shot in IMAX, 70mm film stock, which I can't wait to see on the big screen. Give it to me now. My eyeballs need it. So let's talk about this trailer, and I'd like to watch this trailer with you guys and sort of just break down a few things. I've watched this trailer maybe once, maybe twice, and the first reaction I had to this was, it's not quite what I was hoping for. I don't think it looks bad. It doesn't really do much for me, I guess. And I don't want to sound overly negative. I'm just being honest with you. So let's watch this trailer together, and please let me know what you think about the Odyssey trailer or the movie. But let's check this thing out. And Universal, if you're watching, this is called fair use, critique and criticism. I'm giving my commentary over the footage and not showing it in its entirety. So when you give me a false copyright claim and go against the rules of fair use, well, you're breaking the law and also breaking YouTube policy. So with all that said, go fuck yourselves. Let's continue on watching the trailer. So the thing that stood out to me about this trailer was, like, don't get me wrong, the cinematography looks great. I believe this is the same cinematographer that Nolan worked with on, was it Interstellar and Tenet? Or it was one of his last few movies. But the cinematography looks good. I like the way it looks. It sort of has that typical Nolan, Nolan's style has this sort of noir style to it. And I like that. You know, it's simplistic. It has a lot of flawed characters. Neo-noir. That's the term I'm looking for. That's his style. And I love that style of filmmaking. But right here, we basically have Greek mythology Batman. And this was the first thing I remember seeing in the trailer when I watched it yesterday. And this is a point of a lot of controversy on the internet. Now, when it comes to the internet, people like to dissect everything, and everyone feels the urge and the need to have an opinion. And this is one of the points of discussion for a lot of people. And I will just say, that's not quite what I was expecting. Now, I know there is a 6-minute prologue that was released in IMAX, and keep in mind, I'm not judging the movie, I'm not reviewing the movie, I'm just reviewing a 1-minute teaser trailer that we got. So everything I say is based on this teaser trailer, okay? But I would love to see the prologue. But anyway, we have Greek mythology Batman right here. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but it wasn't what I was expecting from a Nolan movie. But I guess you could make the argument that this is mythology. This is an interpretation of an interpretation of an interpretation, and it doesn't need to be period piece accurate. So I guess that's one way to look at it. That kind of is surprising from someone like Christopher Nolan. Now, the other thing that stood out to me about this trailer was Matt Damon in this film isn't even attempting to do an accent. Now, when it comes to time period movies, I think an accent always helps make it a bit more immersive, right? Even if they're doing an accent that sounds a little bit shitty and odd, I still like a little bit of an accent because he just sounds like Matt Damon. But, I will play devil's advocate and say, well, one of my favorite time period movies of all time is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where you have Kevin Costner, who is supposed to be an Englishman, talking just like Kevin Costner. So, I guess I can't be a hypocrite because I really love that movie, and I feel like they're doing the same thing in this one. Maybe Matt Damon just can't do a very good English accent. I'm not quite sure. But I feel like he has in the past. Now, like that shot right there looks nice and sexy and slick. It looks very Nolan-ish. Kind of has like those faded browns and the color palette. Now, the cast of this movie is just bonkers. You got Tom Holland. You got Anne Hathaway right there. And it feels like he's just casting everyone he's already cast in previous movies. I don't really have any problems with that. But looking at some of the casting choices over here, you get Benny Safdie, who's playing Agamemnon, who was like the king in Troy. And by the way, when it comes to Troy, this is basically, think of Troy like the prequel to the Odyssey, okay? Without, Brad Pitt and Self-Tanner looking all cool with his abs. And then you have Elliot Page is in the movie at some point. Now, I'm curious what character Elliot Page plays. Only time will tell. But you got Tom Holland, you got Robert Pattinson, you got Matt Damon, you got Charlize Theron, who plays Cersei, you got Zendaya, who plays Athena. I really feel like a young Charlize Theron would make a better Athena, just putting it out there. But anyway, you got a loaded cast. But anyway, let's continue on with this trailer, shall we? So like right there, that's a practical ship in the ocean. Practicality. Nolan, give it to me anytime. I'll take it. Anytime, any place. I'll take it from you, Christopher Nolan. Practicality, that is. And I think that looks awesome. I mean, just look at those shots right there, man. That's epic. I can't wait to see that on the big screen. But is it me, or does every single trailer from Nolan, it always has the exact same template? It has the, look, right here. Same font, same exact font, same color palettes, same bombastic sound every time like Christopher Nolan's name comes on screen. Let's just watch it. Let's scroll back. Let's hear that bombastic sound. See? Bombastic sound. But right there, look at that. Now that's an epic shot. I'm sure that's practical. That's probably a real set piece they put back there. That looks beautiful. That looks beautiful. Now, do I understand what's happening in the story? No, because the teaser didn't tell us much. But right here, we're about to see something that I think was the standout of this trailer. Are you guys ready for it? Here it goes. Did you see it back there? Here it is, right here. So this is what we all need to pay close attention to. Look at that thing back there. Now, props to Christopher Nolan for casting a real-life mythological giant. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. Now, I'm not sure where they cast this guy from. Couldn't tell you. But man, just look at that real giant back there in the background. That's what I like about Nolan. That's a real giant back there. Now, it's a mechanical robot or whatever, but it's a practical thing. It's a practical effect. I like that. There's a tactile function to it. And I think that's cool. Now, I'm curious to see how it translate when we watch it in the theater. Hopefully that looks really cool. But, little things like that. But the shots look awesome. But I guess what I'm saying is just, I don't know, the tone, the vibe of the trailer, the score didn't really stand out to me in this 1-minute teaser trailer. I'm still excited to see the movie. I want to see it. But it just wasn't quite what I was expecting. But then again, it's a teaser. It teased me, and I just wish I was a little more excited about it. But for me, I go back to previous trailers from Christopher Nolan. Trailers like, The Dark Knight, which I think is probably one of the best trailers of all time. I go back to Interstellar, things like that. I think those trailers were just much better trailers than something like this. Here's a series of little clips that don't really tell you anything about the narrative of the story or give you insights to what's happening with big bombastic sounds. So what do you guys think about the Odyssey trailer? Do you like it? Do you love it? Let me know. Nolan has had his idea for the Odyssey in place for 15 plus years. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Well, that's every Nolan movie. He always says, I've been thinking about this idea for 15 to 20 years. And then you watch Tenet and you go, what'd you do with those 15 years, man? All right, let's keep going. Nolan is a one-trick cinematic pony. You know, to a certain degree, on certain aspects, there's just things about Nolan movies I don't necessarily love. Like, sometimes his color grading I don't think is the best. I think it does a disservice to these awesome spectacle visuals that he's all about. It's like, oh, we got this awesome movie. It's on 70 millimeter IMAX. What are we going to do with the color grading? Well, let's make the skin tones really warm and make everything else around them kind of gray. And I think Nolan has come out and said he's colorblind, and it almost comes across that way sometimes when you look at the color grading of some of his movies. I feel like sometimes he does a disservice to his own movies, but, you know. Well, Christopher Nolan did pass on directing Troy, so this is his Troy. Absolutely. But, you know, when I go back and watch Troy, I think that movie has immense of rewatchability to it. And it's a spectacle set piece. I love me some Troy. I do. And I feel like if that got the exact same treatment from a Nolan movie, I don't know if the rewatchability would be the same for me. I think Wolfgang Peterson did a great job on that. I need to see more clips from the Odyssey before I have a strong opinion. No. Base your strong opinion on the 1-minute teaser that they gave you. That's your right. That's what you're allowed to do. We're not reviewing the movie. We're just talking shit about the teaser trailer. The audio in his films is sometimes bad. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's one major complaint 90% of people have. Now, for me, that really kicked into gear. Now, I'll back up. Let's go to The Dark Knight Rises. When it comes to Bane's audio dialogue, originally, and I remember watching that prologue of Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, and it was not audible, anything that guy was saying up on that plane. Not a damn thing was understood or heard. No one in the audience understood what he was saying. What? And then they went back in and tweaked the audio to raise it so high on the track list of audio tracks to where I feel like that was Nolan slapping the producers in the face and saying, you wanted to hear the audio? Here you go. It sounds like Bane is inside of your head when he's talking. But then you get to something like Tenet, and you watch that movie, and the only thing you really can do is watch it because you can't hear a damn thing anyone's saying, and especially in a movie that's very convoluted and very heavy on the dialogue to drive the plot and explain what's happening, the fact that you can't hear it sort of makes the movie less engaging, doesn't it? It's one of those movies that it should have came with subtitles, and I wish it would have. But anyway... those are my thoughts on the Odyssey trailer. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. It's still one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It just, something about that teaser it wasn't quite what I was looking for. Does your Bane mask still smell like fireworks after all these years? My Bane mask smells like my Bane mask smells like the pigeon lady's armpits. All right. That's why I don't put it on too often. All right, now the last bit of news I need to talk about, and we'll make this one very quick, is I want to talk about an upcoming TV series that gets me so excited, and that is the upcoming Point Break TV series. Now, this is coming from AMC. Now, here's my thing with this. This has a completely different set of producers and creators than Breaking Bad. But hear me out for a second. If you could make a series based around Point Break, you have this group of criminals, and they're likable criminals. They have a good ideology behind them. Why do they want to rob banks? Well, because they want to live the endless summer, okay? Because once again, it's not about the money, man. It's about us against the system. And I like that ideology. I do. I like likable criminals. And I can always enjoy a likable criminal. But imagine this. This would be my pitch to AMC. Whatever you're thinking, just don't do that, okay? This is a better idea. Basically make it like in the tone of Breaking Bad meets Point Break. Give me that kind of dynamic. Give me that edge. Give me that craftsman style of a TV series that has phenomenal acting and characters to where you just never know the twists and turns. And once again, that entire series of Breaking Bad was about likable, charismatic bad guys. I mean, Walter White was a meth dealer. He was a terrible person, but he was fascinating to watch. And at some point, you wanted him to win and succeed. So I would love it if Point Break could have that same tone. But anyway, supposedly this has a whole new creative mindset behind it. It's still based on the 1991 Point Break movie. It does take place 35 years after those events. So my safe assumption is it's probably going to focus around like the kids or relatives to some degree on those previous characters of Johnny Utah and Bodie. And I think that would be the most logical decision. But anyway, there's not much else that I can really say about it based on the info I have thus far. But man, oh man, I never thought I would see the day when we got a Point Break TV series. Now, back in 2015, we did get something that was a remake of Point Break, and that was the Point Break movie, which was probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. They just bastardized everything great about Point Break. They hired 2 C-rate actors who belong as background actors in a J.C. Penney commercial, and they made these guys the stars. And it was like watching 2 mannequins have ChatGPT dialogue just in this most stoic, boring movie that looks like it was color graded by a man who has never seen the light of day because he's blind. And it just was gray and gloomy and boring, and I hated every single second about it. But on a positive note, I'm excited about a Point Break series. And by the way, Gary Busey isn't doing much. You can get an autograph from Gary Busey or a cameo video from Gary Busey for like $7. Bring him back. Have him play the kooky, wacky guy at some point in the show that someone goes to get some advice. And all he wants is a meatball sandwich. That's all you gotta give his character. Give me 2, Utah. Give me 2. The air got dirty and the sex got clean. The ex-presidents are surfers. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Point Break TV series. It could be a gripping crime drama that could last 4 or 5 seasons if it's done right. Absolutely. Imagine a series about dudes robbing banks and all the criminal activity that they get themselves into. Like, it could sort of be like Point Break meets Sons of Anarchy with more extreme sports in it. And there's all kinds of cool shit you could include in that with the practical stunts and set pieces. I don't know. It sounds really cool to me. Oh, damn. Give him $7 to be on the show. Yeah, at some point, maybe I should read it. I want to reach out to Gary Busey and Corey Feldman to be co-host on my live show. I really think both of them might do it. Dustin Rich says, Bodie and Utah cook meth? Well, they did at some point in the past. No. I'm talking about Walter White and Jesse. Did I say they cook meth? No. All right. Now let's go to the last main topic I want to talk about tonight. And the last main topic I feel like we have to talk about, and I will give you a very, very short review of it. Hang on here. Let me bring it up. Okay. I want to talk about a movie that I originally had no interest in seeing. I didn't really care about it. It's based on a book that my wife quite enjoyed and loved, and she sort of talked me into seeing the movie. But then again, it has Sydney Sweeney in it, so I'm sure it's going to be entertaining in its own way. And I will just say, the creators and the casting behind the Housemaid movie, they know what they're doing, okay? We'll just leave it there. But let's talk about this movie. The plot of it is a struggling woman is happy to start over as a housemaid for an affluent elite couple. Now, going into this movie, once again, I didn't have much interest, and I really don't feel like the trailers do much for this movie. I almost feel like they do it a disservice. But man, oh man, if you want a dark satire movie that has like this elite level of dark humor and brutalism throughout, where it's just a lot of fun to watch, I think The Housemaid might pleasantly surprise you, because it did for me. Now, once again, it does star it does star Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, who, by the way, Amanda Seyfried in this movie, I think was a standout casting choice. She plays this very affluent lady who hires Sydney Sweeney to be the housemaid, and there's something a little bit unhinged about her character. You might say slightly bipolar, but there's a lot of twists and turns and a lot of what have yous throughout the runtime of this movie, and it's always engaging. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. There are some scenes where it just makes you like squint your eye, like you can feel the pain emanating from your teeth area. We'll just leave it there. But it's also funny. And I like movies that blend all of those things. If anything, I would compare it to the dark comedic stylings of something like, and it's not as good. It's not as good, but I'm going to say it reminded me of like an American Psycho-esque dark comedy style, where you have these people and they're all about consumerism and being rich and self-indulgent, but the movie makes fun of those things, and it never takes itself overly serious for too long. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. It's sort of the new trend in dramatic movies, because if The Housemaid had been made in the 1990s, I can see the tone of this movie being very, very different. It would have been something more like a Misery, for example, with Kathy Bates. But the new tone of modern day drama movies are they always have to inject a lot of levity in their movies. And I asked my wife, I was like, was the novel as like dark and comedic driven as the movie? And she's like, no, it was more dramatic. And that's what they're doing with modern day movies. And I'm sure you guys are picking this up, but what they're doing is basically everything's meta to some degree, because I think audiences have been inundated with all these tropes for the last 20, 30 years from Hollywood. And rather than treat us like, troglodytes, they're basically becoming self-aware and sort of making fun of some of those tropes where they go, yeah, we know this is like a trope that's been done, wink, wink, but we're aware of it. And even the characters, they call certain shit out along the way. And I like that none of the characters in this movie are overly stupid for too long, because it almost becomes frustrating. It's like, okay, this movie should have been called Red Flag the Movie, because how many red flags does it take for you to get the hell out of this house? But throughout the movie, like, they mention those problems and they are aware of it. And I liked the self-references throughout the film. I thought it added something to it. So I had a good time with The Housemaid. When it comes to Sydney Sweeney in the movie, I think this is kind of like the type of acting role she should be in. She does have this charisma about her. Okay? And there's definitely a scene in this movie where I think the charisma comes to full light, if you will. But I don't think she's the best actress. I don't think she has the most range. But her character in this movie made sense. And she does some funny shit. So I liked The Housemaid. I did. I think it was one of the biggest surprises I had in the cinema of 2025. And I actually would recommend going to check this movie out. I think this is like an easy, sort of over-the-top, dark comedy movie I think a lot of people would maybe enjoy. And if you like things like American Psycho, I think you might enjoy this type of movie. Or at least I did. But also, the other thing I wanted to talk about was Brandon Scalina? Is it Scalina? Anyway, I don't know what it is with this guy, but every time someone makes a movie based on like a woman trauma novel, he's always like the leading guy to go to. But anyway, one cool scene I enjoyed in The Housemaid was there's a scene revolving around a lot of brutality and being held captive. And I think that was like the standout sequence in the entire movie. So look out for that. Yes, charisma. She does have charisma. Even though she has like dead eyes, she still has charisma. I've never seen a Sydney Sweeney movie. I think this is the first one you should watch. All right. Do you guys want to talk about Avengers Endgame, the Endgame teaser trailer? Do you guys quickly want to talk about this? All right, here we go. Ooh, my stomach kind of is rumbling. I ate some Panda Express before I went live tonight, and it's just, I don't know if it's setting right with me. So anyway, let's quickly talk about the brand new teaser trailer for Avengers Doomsday. Now, originally, this thing was leaked on Reddit, and it looked like it was shot with an iPhone from 2005. And I don't even think iPhones existed in 2005. So if that says anything, that's how bad the quality of this trailer originally was. It looked like it was artificially made by AI. And they basically just lowered the resolution so it didn't look like AI. This trailer looks like it was shot with a potato, okay? But they released the official trailer. So let's quickly watch it because it's not very long and not a lot happens. But I might just have a lot to say about it. So let's watch this teaser trailer together. Here it goes. Because copyright. Now, I don't think this is like the most provocative teaser trailer of all time. I don't know if it does like a lot to get my juices flowing. But, you know, it definitely does solidify one big thing coming back. And that's not a little baby here. No, no, no. That's digitized Chris Evans with face smoothing put on. That looks like it was done by a Snapchat filter right there. I hate to tell you guys this, but humans have something called pores. I don't think they cover their face in plastic and candle wax. But anyway, Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. So the safe bet is Captain America's back, baby. And the reason he's coming back is because Anthony Mackie as Falcon just couldn't do his job. And what was his job? Well, to make us give a shit about the character Captain America. And to be honest with you, I just don't anymore. But with Chris Evans coming back as Steve Rogers, to me, that is America's ass. That is Captain America. And, you know, I like that. Some people think, a lot of people don't like that. They feel like they're taking 2 steps back and going back to the well. And you know what I say about that? Modern day Marvel movies, for the most part, I feel like we're watching the JV squad save the day. And I just feel like we're watching like the Kmart version of the Avengers at times. And like, I don't really care to watch them because the other thing that they didn't do with the new set of the Avengers characters, they didn't really give them a lot of time to really propel or build up and get audiences invested in them. When it comes to the original Avengers, we had multiple movies spanning before we ever got a big team up. With everything new they're throwing in, it's just like, here you go. Here's this character that we just interjected in the story no one cares about. And I know Anthony Mackie was Falcon for a long time, but he wasn't Captain America for a long time. He was Falcon. And that's who he still is in my heart. Now, if he wants to fly around with a wingsuit on with a star on it, so be it. But you know what? I'm excited that Chris Evans is coming back as Captain America. And I think that adds a little something to the movie and makes me excited. Now, who knows? Maybe he has a very small role. Maybe he shows up for a limited amount of screen time as Captain America because the Avengers need all the help they can get. I'm not quite sure. Maybe the story revolves around little baby Captain America. I don't know. Maybe little baby Captain America is actually a character that grows up to be someone bad. That's a possibility. That could be a theory. Who knows? But what do you guys think about this? Did the trailer get you excited for Avengers Doomsday? And by the way, the Odyssey and Avengers Doomsday are probably my 2 most anticipated movies of 2026. Dustin Rich says, I doubt Cap is really coming back, just Steve Rogers. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and maybe, yeah. But I think we're kind of like splitting hairs here. Steve Rogers is definitely back. But really, what's the difference between him and Captain America? Putting on a mask and holding a shield? I don't know, I guess. Maybe he gives some direction at some point or some help. That could be a thing. Very possible. All right, the next one comes from, I think Chris Evans wears a hairpiece. Absolutely he does. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hairlines recede, man. It happens. Marvel really fumbled. They fumbled, but I think they're going to pick up the ball again and make a touchdown. I really feel like they're going to get there again. They've learned from their mistakes of making mediocre movies with shitty characters no one likes and don't want to watch, with a tone that's all over the place and erratic. And I'm talking to Thor Love and Thunder when I say things like that. And hopefully they get back on track. People think this is AI. I think life is doomed. Well, people thought it was AI before it was released in high definition because it did, in fact, look like AI. And I understand why, because that shot of Chris Evans, his face is so smooth that it sort of does look a little bit artificial. The only Marvel movie I watched was Spider-Man. Libby Film says, there's a theory that all the people who changed the timeline of Endgame and No Way Home are going to be affected by the TVA. Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right, let's dive back into your questions here, and those are all the topics I had to talk about today. So let's dive into the questions, the Q&A portion of the live stream. And with all that said, let's start the show out with a bang. 3, 2, 1. And by the way, when I go back and rewatch these live shows, these party poppers don't sound as loud as they do when I'm actually shooting them off in my room. They really sound like the echo, they're blaring, they blow my eardrums out. I'm maybe overstating that, being hyperbolic, but they sound much louder in person. So anyway, let me scroll back here. And scroll over a little bit. Here we go. Give me 1 second because the... Okay. Trying to have my... Give me 2 seconds. I'm scrolling back. Scrolling way, way back here. Okay, we got one here from Nickadug. How's it going? Hey, John. I'm curious, when your wife shows you a show or a movie she wants you to see, what do you do if you don't like it while you're watching it? I just say, this fucking sucks. Anyway, will you focus and pay attention still, or do you go on your phone? Basically, what are your guys' watch boundaries? No, if we sit down to take the time to watch a movie either of us like, we watch the movie. But it has to but I know what I'm getting into, and she does too. And I always, what I do before I show her like an older movie she's never seen is I'm like, well, let's watch the trailer to said movie before we dive into it. And does this look like something you feel like watching? That's typically what we do. Now, the other thing I will add to that is there's a lot of older movies that have really shitty trailers. And I'm sure you guys have come across this. Like if you watch a trailer on Amazon Prime for a movie, like a 1990, I'll give you an example. The trailer for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like that trailer it looks like it's the most grainy, terrible quality trailer you could ever watch. It just looks terrible. And it doesn't do much for the movie. And I'm like, trust me, it's a much better movie. But I always try to show her the trailer and vice versa. All right, we got one here from Thomas who says, Merry Christmas from Melbourne, Australia. I don't know if it's just me, but Will from Stranger Things reminds me of Barrett Oliver, who started in The Never-Ending Story, and Daryl. Oh, who started in Never-Ending Story? Was he the main kid in Never-Ending Story that read the book? I could see a younger version of Will sort of looking like that kid, especially with the same haircut, that long bowl haircut. But Will kind of aged a bit differently. Yeah, I see what you're saying, kind of, sort of. But, man, thanks for the question, and Merry Christmas down under, man. All right. The next one comes from Dan. How's it going, Dan? Let me scroll down here. And Dan says, Hi, John. Don't get scared now. Been following you since 2014 or so. Do you think we'll be able to make feature films with an AI prompt soon? Is that exciting or scary? Thoughts on an AI takeover? Doom. Yeah, I've talked about this multiple times in the live streams. I kind of want to put on a Santa hat right now. I don't know why. But over the years, I've thought about this a lot, maybe a little too much. It keeps me up at night. When I think about, at some point, getting on ChatGPT, typing in 5 prompts of a movie that I might want to see, and it craps out a feature-length film, I think that is a very plausible thing in the next decade or so. I mean, with the advent of AI over the last year or two, You give it another 10 years of exponential growth. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get there. And I'm fairly certain there's some forms of AI that exist out there that could probably do that already. Or maybe they've already existed for years. And anytime that the masses get a hold of AI, you just have to assume that a much more advanced technological version of that already exists somewhere. So I think at some point, yes, we will get there, unless there's rampant copyright laws dictating what AI can and can't do. And I almost feel like at some point there needs to be some kind of mandatory law put into place that does limit the use of AI, creatively speaking. Because if you can start making AI movies at home, for example, okay, give me the sequel to Avatar, Fire and Ash, where they actually conclude the story and Earth becomes one with the Pandora. Boom, 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 give me that. Make it look like a James Cameron movie. And then it shits out Avatar 4. That's a possibility. In this decade, potentially. But the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, like, if you allow it to keep going and expanding, what will AI be able to do in the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? Will we get to a point where rather than just making prompts for a movie, will we be able to make prompts for a video game? Give me Grand Theft Auto Part 9. Give me that. Give me that entire game. And then it shits out all the code. You download it and you can start playing the game on your PC. I don't know what the limitations of this are, but it's scary to say the least. And at some point in the future, maybe in 100 years or so, I'm sure AI will get so technologically advanced to where we actually can create a simulation and upload our consciousness to it. That is, if we're not already in said simulation. And the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, if we can do that eventually, who's to say we're not already doing it now? And that's where I put my tinfoil hat on and go to the next question. So thank you. All right, let's scroll back here. By the way, sorry guys, it's being a little wonky tonight. We got one here from Jeff. How's it going, Jeff? Who is the famous person you've ever talked to? The most famous person I've ever talked to? Well, probably Louis Bloom. I think that's the most famous person I've ever talked to. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. I met Jake Gyllenhaal very briefly when I went to Zurich, Switzerland back in 2017. And so I think Jake Gyllenhaal is probably the most famous person I've ever briefly talked to. I remember he was wearing a denim suit that day. A Canadian tuxedo, as I like to call it. And it looked a little too tight for him, but I liked it. All right, the next one comes from Philly. How's it going, Philly cheese? And he says, or they say, do you believe that Stuckman will ever want to direct another movie after the mixed reactions of Shelby Oaks? I liked it more than most. I gave it a B+. Yeah, absolutely. Why would you not take every opportunity that you can to direct another film and maybe make it better? So yeah, I think he definitely does. The question is, will he take any criticisms and use those for his next film? And I hope he does take some of those criticisms. But yeah, I think he will. And by the way, thank you so much for the question. You get a party popper right to the face. All right, the next one comes from Michael Parton, one who says, hey, John, after seeing Fire and Ash, I think it's time for James Cameron to move on. I don't want to see more of these. I also don't think it's going to break even. Well, the movie, I think, supposedly costs around $200-something million, $300 million. And I think it's already made like $300 million back in its first week. So, I think it will make its money back. And the other thing about Avatar movies are, you have to think a large majority of the box office of Avatar comes from overseas. People in China and Japan eat this shit up. They love big blue aliens, and I get it. I do too. But the thing I want to elaborate on when I talk about that is, if you look at the nuance in Avatar films, it's clearly made for mass appeal. Like the way people communicate and express themselves and state clearly what is happening in the movie, there's very few subtleties in Avatar movies. They're basically made for anyone who's a child to an adult. And I almost feel like when it comes to like foreign films like that, especially movies like made for China, have you ever noticed they love movies that have very little subtlety? Everything is very clear and laid out and basically said. Have you noticed that? It's because like you don't have that much nuance. It just caters to the largest mass appeal of people. Anyway, just a little side note I wanted to talk about. But thank you for the question, Michael. Thank you so much. We got one here from James Dozier, who has been a member for 49 months. John, I hope you have a Merry Christmas from me. Well, thanks, James, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas as well, and all of you have a Merry Christmas. All right, we got another one here from Jeff again. Do you ever get recognized when you're in public? I have been recognized in public many of times. I don't want to sound like a self-indulgent, narcissistic, egotistical prick, but I have been recognized. Usually it's at like a movie theater or like a media store. So I have been recognized. I was recognized at some film festivals multiple times. So it's always cool. It really is surreal because I know who I am. But I'm just like, it's like this person has watched me for years on YouTube, and I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a really cool, flattering thing. It really is. It kind of reminds you that the people who watch you on YouTube are actually like, these are real people. They have lives. And they take the time out of their day to watch my stupid ass. So that's always cool. Like, for example, when I went to Fantastic Fest a year and a half ago, there was one guy that drove out of his way, like by an hour, just to like maybe run into me. And that was really cool. And I did run into him, and it was awesome. And I was glad to meet him, and really nice guy. And it just one time though, I was at a urinal, and this one guy did start talking to me. And I was like, how about we continue this conversation outside momentarily? He's like, yeah, good idea. I'm like, yeah. I was like, all right. And then the first thing I said to him when he came outside to greet me was, all right, did you remember to shake, and did you wash your hands? And when he said, yeah, I gave him a fist bump. So yeah, it's always cool to meet people, man. We got the next one here from oh gosh, let's back up here. Okay, the next one comes from, come on. Hang on. Here it is. Chase C. How's it going, Chase C? Who says, Merry Christmas, John. I'm 36 years old and just watched Robin Hood 1991 for the first time. Really solid, swashbuckling, old-school blockbuster. They don't make movies like that anymore. Thanks for the recommendation. Cheers from Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, thanks for that, man. I will always recommend Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves if you want a nice, fun adventure film. And I love it. Why has no one told me that I was talking with a small screen on for the last hour? Anyway. But anyway, yeah, let's... I'm glad you enjoyed Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I'll carve his heart out with a spoon. Why a spoon, cousin? Because it's dull, you wit. All right. Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next one here. Sorry. The next one comes from. Oh, by the way, Chase. Thanks for the question. All right, we answered this one earlier from Philly Cheesesteak, but now I'm actually able to show your name on the screen. I wasn't able to do that 20 minutes ago, so please forgive my sins against humanity. The next one comes from Caleb. How's it going, Caleb? All right, here it goes. John, what would be the scariest thing you could imagine happening while doing a home inspection? Oh, man, I don't know. Getting bit in the neck by a venomous spider or something and then dying in a crawl space. I'll tell you a fun story that happened to me the other day during a home inspection, and I'm not proud to say this, but it did happen. I was in a very large, older home. It was almost like, think of something like the size of the McAllister house in Home Alone, but much older and dilapidated, where everything inside of it's just broken and falling apart. And the basement looks like a medieval torture chamber. But then again, the basement in the McAllister house sort of looked like the same thing with a talking furnace. But anyway, my point is, I walked into one of the bedrooms upstairs and I closed the door, and the handle fell off after I closed it, and I was inside of it, and I couldn't open the door back up. So I spent the next 25 minutes trying to open that door back up, and I was using like my screwdriver and everything I had on my tool belt, and I had to take the hinges off the door to open up the door and take it off the wall. At one point I thought about jumping out of the window, but I was like, no, I can do this. So I MacGyvered my way out of that shit. So that was pretty fun. But anyway, I hope that answered the question, and thank you so much for the question, Caleb. All right, the next one comes from... And by the way, Jeff Unreal, thanks for the questions earlier as well. Oh, the next one comes from Lee B Films. Here it goes. When will the top 20 favorite video drop, and what movie would make it on the list? Also, where did you get that awesome sweater? Well, Lee B Films, let me answer your question with the sweater first. Where did I get this? Where did I get this sweater? I don't remember. I ordered it from some website years ago. I don't remember the logistics of why and where. I'm sure you could Google it and find a Home Alone sweater anywhere on the internet. But I love it. Just look at this thing. Look at this thing in its glory. So I don't remember where I picked this up. Some website. But anyway, top 20 videos. Yeah, I was meaning to make it this month. Time got away from me. I'm sorry. It's still on the to-do list. I still want to do a movie collection video at some point. But man, Christmas got in the way. And life got in the way, and now we're here talking on a live stream. So it's still on the to-do list. January is usually a dead zone of nothing to do when it comes to movies, so maybe I'll do that. Yeah. That could be a possibility. I think January might be the appropriate time. Okay, let's go to the next thing here, and the next one comes from... And by the way, Lee B, thank you so much for the question. Party popper right to your face. The next one comes from James Doshier, who says, do you have any favorite Rob Reiner films? I bet you heard of What Happened to Him. My favorite film of his was Stand By Me. I also like A Few Good Men and The Princess Bride. Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy what happened to Rob Reiner. And I do know what happened to him. Yes, I don't live in a cave or anything like that. I did make a post on X about it. And we live in a sick, sick world, don't we? These Nepo babies just have no sense of reality, and then they end up just offing their parents because they're mentally unstable people. And it's disgusting and terrifying. Now, when it comes to Rob Reiner, I would say my favorite film that he's ever made and directed was easily Stand By Me. I think that is one of the best coming-of-age films to ever exist. I watch it every year, at least once or twice. And the camaraderie of those kids walking down those train tracks with the narration at the very end of that story, it just always hits home for me. And the older I get, the more that retrospective that Richard Dreyfuss's character Gordy is having about those events of his childhood, man, they hit harder and harder the older you get. I never had friends like the friends I had when I'm 12 years old. Jesus, does anyone? You know, it's the truth. It's the truth. And so I love me some Stand By Me. And yeah, it's unfortunate to hear about Rob Reiner's passing, man. It's crazy. It's very, what are those two brothers that killed their parents? The Menendez brothers, you know, in Hollywood that killed their parents in the 80s. So yeah, it's crazy, man. Terrifying. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Lee B Films, who says, Could the 2012 Avengers stop the dark side of the moon invasion without the help of the Autobots? That's a really thought-provoking question. It really is. I think we should bring the best minds on the universe to. I feel like ChatGPT would be able to answer that question. I don't know. Type it into that. That's a great question. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say I think the Avengers could stop the dark side of the moon threat. I really do, because if you really think about it, wasn't it just basically the main bad Decepticon guy, voiced by Leonard Nimoy? Like, I'm pretty sure the Avengers could stop like a large fire truck that transforms into a robot. I could be wrong. What else happened in that movie? I don't remember. Oh, yeah, there was other shit that flew down from the sky shooting things. I don't know. It was kind of more or less the same thing, wasn't it? I mean, let's put it this way. If Sam Witwicky can survive an alien invasion from mechanical robots and be okay, I'm fairly certain the Avengers probably can too. So we'll leave it there. How's that? I'm going to go with yes. But with all that said, I would love to see the Hulk fight a Decepticon. Nah? Take my money now. Dustin Rich says, this is Spinal Tap is hilarious. The mockumentary, yeah. I've only seen that maybe one time in my life. But yeah, Princess Bride and Stand By Me are probably my favorite two Richard Reiner movies. Dustin Rich says, when is the Michael Bay Skibidi toilet movie coming out? I don't know anything. I don't know. We talked about that months ago. To be honest with you, I don't care. But I do want to see it. I mean, hey, if Michael Bay's only making shit nowadays, you might as well make a movie about a toilet, right? All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Bucketeer, who has been a member for 58 months. Thank you, Bucketeer. All right, Night King 01 is in the house, everybody. So let's dive into this glorious question, and I cannot wait. Did you notice James Cameron hardly ever talks about the story in the Avatar films? It's always about the technology. I think he is pushing. I think his pushing of the boundaries of film technology has overshadowed his time to work on the story. Well, absolutely. I think James Cameron lives for the advancement of technology to make some cool scenes, but story has definitely taken a back seat. Absolutely. And that's when you know you're losing your way as a storyteller. I think there's a nice blend that you can do of both. And at times I do see things in the Avatar movies that reminds me of just how great James Cameron is. There's some really cool sequences and scenes in Avatar Fire and Ash, but man, it just... What is your purpose here, James? What do you want to say? Because I feel like you ran out of shit to say in the last one. We're just kind of doing the same thing again. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Claudia Rogajan. Claudia Rogajan has this to say. I found this out recently, but apparently James Cameron actually wrote Point Break. He said he was screwed over by the Writers Guild on the movie's screenwriting credit. Well, I've always sort of known James Cameron was heavy-handed with producing Point Break because he was married to Catherine Bigelow at the time. And, you know, I've always thought this and I've safely assumed it. And almost I feel like this is like a fact, but I think the reason Point Break was so good was because James Cameron had a heavy producing role in that movie. I really do. And there's a lot of lines in Point Break and a lot of scenes, the way the action is shot specifically, especially during like the car chase scene and the foot chase scene in Point Break, that's very reminiscent to the chase sequences in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which came out literally like the same year. So I've always just safely assumed James Cameron had a lot of creative input in that movie, and that's why it was so damn good. All right, the next one comes from Ty the Movie Guy, who says, My sis and I were baffled by the new Avatar. No new character arcs. Nothing is shown for the Ash villain. She's treated like an extra merc. The finale is the exact same as the last film. And our boy throws himself off a mountain. No reason. Laugh out loud. Wild and boring. Yeah, you know, it was literally the same movie. It was. Now they changed up a few things, and like they basically, you have the same people fighting each other with the exact same character arcs, but they kind of put a different backdrop behind them. And it's just like, did James Cameron just like have multiple ideas, but he couldn't commit to any of them? So he said, you know what? I'll just do them all. like the character arc in the previous movie that took place in, I don't know, like on a boat that was sinking. Let's do that exact same thing, but let's put it on a thing falling through the sky with volcanic eruptions happening in the background and more shit blowing up with an electrical storm over here. Let's do that. That'll be different. And that's what he did. Okay, thanks. Yeah, what is James Cameron doing? I don't know. 1901 back again. Let me take a drink of this here. I'll say this about the Odyssey trailer. Where is all the color? This is a Greek epic poem. The Greek world was full of color. This looks flat. Also, John, these costumes are the opposite of accurate. No color, leather for some reason. It's a bummer. Well, hey, I feel like you're echoing my same viewpoints from earlier when we talked about this trailer. I don't understand why Nolan wants to go out of his way to shoot a movie in 70 millimeter IMAX with these custom IMAX camera rigs. He does all this crazy shit for filmmaking that's practical. And then when it comes to post-production and it comes to color grading said movies, he's like, you know what? Rather than make this an immersive, colorful experience, because that's what the world really is, let's just make it dull as shit in some places. And then when it comes to the skin color of people, up it by 3,000%, where everyone looks red and orangey to some degree. That's what I want. And it's like, okay, someone should correct him on this. But then again, the man is a master filmmaker, so if he wants to do some questionable color grading, that is up to him. That's his choice. I'm Mickey C? Anyway, I'm Mickey says, you see that James Cameron admitted that he wrote the 90s Point Break. Yeah, once again, going back to that, that doesn't surprise me in any way. It does not surprise me or shock me at all. Every time I saw his name on the opening credits that says executive producer James Cameron, I just assumed they took most of his ideas. I'll put it like this. How about we say Point Break is my favorite James Cameron movie, not directed by James Cameron. All right, Night King 01 back again. Says, Nolan's commitment to practical effects is so strong he can literally see the oldest trick being used when the guy gets stabbed inside the horse. The blades literally go behind him and no blood comes out. Also, it's exactly like that scene in Dunkirk. Yeah, sometimes, well, and also it's sort of like the scene in The Dark Knight where the one bank robber in the clown mask gets hit with the bus that's backing up into the building. And the bus, I get that they're trying to do some kind of like perspective thing and do a practical effect, but just the angles of all of it never mesh up. And he's like, you can clearly tell he's 25 feet away from the bus when it backs up and hits him. Let's show this. Let's just show this scene real quick. I know you guys are visual learners, so here it goes. All right. We got to talk about this. Just a 5-minute YouTube ad first. All right, here it goes. Let's watch this scene in The Dark Knight. And yes, I love The Dark Knight, but I will talk shit about it when it's appropriate, okay?
And the Joker told you to kill me as soon as we loaded the cash.
No. I killed the bus driver.
bus driver. What bus driver?
Let's watch that one more time. Let's watch this one more time. Watch this guy. There's the bus, 10 feet away. So anyway, I get it. You know, sometimes it's almost like Nolan goes out of his way to show you that this is a practical effect. He's like, if I make it look too good, they'll think it's CGI. But if I make it just look slightly off and overly practical, they'll know. And they'll understand my craftsmanship. It's like, wink, wink. I really did this. And yeah, so I get what you're saying. Okay, let's go to the next one here. I just hope, you know what I hope? I hope this when it comes to the Odyssey movie. I hope that giant mythological one-eyed giant that shows up in the cave, I hope it doesn't come across like this. Oh gosh, I can't. Where is that scene at? Anyway, there was a movie scene that's funny as shit. It basically has a giant. It has a child playing a giant, and he starts cussing at his parents to get the fuck out of his room. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I just hope the giant doesn't look like that. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's go to the next thing here, and the next thing is Robert Giacinta, 6323. How's it going, Robert? Come on, John. Don't tell me you didn't find the new blue girl attractive. You like blue girls. I love them. Merry Christmas, John. Oh, well, yeah, listen. The new evil Fire and Ash tribe leader, she's pure evil. Yes, maybe there is an attraction, a 9-foot tall blue alien woman, ever so slightly. Okay, I'm just saying, what happens in Pandora stays in Pandora, okay? Hey, give me your ponytail. I have an idea. Just putting it out there. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, she was good. She was good. The next one comes from, and by the way, Robert, thank you so much for the question. Let me give you a party popper. Merry Christmas to you as well. The next one comes from Jesus, who says, "Hey John, did you do any Christmas shopping this year? Also, do you think that after Secret Wars, they will reboot the MCU? I don't know where they could go." You know, I thought they were going to reboot the MCU like 5 years ago, but we keep just going back to what worked. And, you know, I do think there's room to reboot it. For me, what I want them to do is they're going to keep making MCU movies, and that's fine. I hope the tone is what it should be, and it definitely wasn't the tone of the last phase of Marvel movies, which was an abomination, just terrible in every way. But you know what? Maybe they'll get back on track. But I really think what they need to do with the next phase of Marvel is just heavily focus on the X-Men. Because for me, the X-Men have far more interesting characters. There is so much you can do with the X-Men characters, and solo movies and team-up movies and spin-off movies and that entire universe of characters. And I think there's so much you can interject in there. So I'm hoping that they put most of their efforts into like an X-Men universe of films. And I hope each one of them has its own like individual style and tone, and they don't just feel like copy and paste MCU movies. And with all of that said, what would you give if you could have James Cameron stop making Avatar movies and like make an X-Men movie? Imagine a James Cameron directed X-Men movie. Imagine the scope of that. And plus, think about this. Any X-Men movies that they make, whatever multiverse they exist in, I really feel like it should take place in like the late 80s, early 90s. I just think that's the appropriate time period for an X-Men movie to take place in, because it gives a lot of creative freedom to the way that they're dressed and look, and some of the way that they talk. For me, the X-Men just feels like something that belongs in the early 90s. And I feel like that's where the movie verse of things should stand too. I just think that would be so much more compelling and interesting. So there's that. So anyway, did I answer the question? I think I did. Oh yeah, Christmas shopping. So I did a little bit of Christmas shopping. Now for Christmas, what we do for my wife's family is we basically we have one person that we buy things for, and and then there's somebody that buys things for us. We have like a secret Santa thing with like a limited dollar amount that you can spend. So I did most of my Christmas shopping on Amazon, but I will say this, right before doing the live show tonight, I was a bit hungry. So I had to go to Panda Express, but also more importantly, I was out of Party Poppers, and I've been out of Party Poppers for the last 3 live streams, and I was not going to make the same mistake again. You hear me? I will not make the same mistake again. You guys deserve the Party Poppers. It's your right, and it's the least I can do for you. So anyway, there's nothing better in life than pulling this string on this cheap little Chinese consumable product that shoots confetti out. It makes me feel so tough. But anyway, I had to go to Walmart and get more Party Poppers. But also, walking into Walmart reminded me of a multitude of reasons why I don't leave my house around the holiday season. So yes, I went to Walmart tonight and I had to buy someone a gift card. That's what I did at Walmart. I don't know. Does anyone really want anything? Like, what do you buy people these days? Other than give someone money or gift card, what do you give them? Here's something that you don't really want that you're going to put in your closet for the next year. What do you buy people nowadays? I don't know. And kids don't even play with toys anymore. They'd rather just have like cash or like a gift card to buy stuff off of an app. We live in a sad, sad time, don't we? Anyway, let's go to the next one here. I have a question for you guys watching right now, actually. Go back to your childhood. Now close your eyes. Pretend this is a group therapy discussion. Go back to your childhood. What was your most anticipated childhood Christmas present that you wanted and also got? The one that just stands the test of time. The one that just lit up your eyes as a small child and gave you that Christmas joy. And also years later, because your parents bought it for you, it made you like your parents a little bit more after those angsty teenage years where you thought, man, my parents actually loved me. And they bought me that one Christmas gift that brought me as much joy as any child who wants consumable products that justify the love of their parents. What was that gift? Let me know that down below. I'll tell you a couple of mine. Real quick before we go to the next question. The first one was, I remember getting a Super Nintendo as a kid. Now I had to share it with my sisters. But man, we played the shit out of that. That was probably one of the best Christmas presents we ever received. And for what felt like 2 years straight, we played Super Mario World. And we were looking for hidden passageways and how to get to Star World and how to beat that shit. So that was really fun. But the next one I quite enjoyed was, there was an RC vehicle, car, 1990s motorcycle. Let me find this bad boy. Oh man, where is it? What year was this? 95 maybe? Oh God, here it is. Back in 1995. Let's transport back in time, shall we? This RC motorcycle right here. It's called a Ricochet RC Stunt Motorcycle. Now, this thing was like the ultimate Christmas present or Christmas gift any young boy could want. The thing about this was, this dude on top of the motorcycle would lean side to side when you were steering it. And this was the thing that I wanted most for Christmas. And the thing was, I got it, and also my best friend at the time who lived across the street from me, he also got it. But the thing that really sucked balls about this Christmas gift was, we couldn't drive our motorcycles side by side because they shared the same frequency and they would interact with each other and just do crazy things. So we couldn't even drive the motorcycles beside each other because they shared the same frequency. So that sort of sucked. The other thing that really, really sucked was, I got this Christmas gift And I think it was like the day of Christmas or maybe the day after. I was driving it around on the street in front of our house, and all of a sudden it flipped off the side of the street down into this ditch that was like 15 feet deep, and there was a creek down below, and the battery on the RC motorcycle it became loose and flipped out somewhere in the creek or in the water. And I searched for this thing. I'm not shitting you. I searched for that battery to the RC vehicle that I had just gotten for Christmas, that I really wanted, that I safely assumed that Santa Claus may have brought me for being such a good little boy that year. I could not find that battery for 2 weeks. I looked everywhere. Every day I'd wake up, I'd go down to the creek and look for that battery. Never found it. Don't know where it is. Couldn't tell you. And obviously, because we weren't rich, we couldn't just go out and buy another RC battery for the vehicle. No. So what I had was this RC vehicle that I couldn't even drive. And I remember just looking at it for years on end, just having this resentment. And that's the day I stopped believing in Christmas. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, let's see what you guys had to say. Please tell me those party poppers are recyclable. No, I put them right in the trash. I hope they end up in some natural body of water somewhere, and they're eaten by a dolphin. Are party poppers a tax expense? Absolutely. Okay. Lee B. Film says Batcave toy set with Batman and the Joker. Dude, I remember the some of the Batman toy sets from the early 90s. I wanted those. Except I think the ones for like Batman Forever kind of got lame. And like I didn't even want the Batmobile from Batman Forever. Like I just didn't think it looked very cool. That or a PS4, probably my PS3 console, Nintendo 64 and Super Mario 64, Hulk hands. Well, Skylar Wheelock, there's a lot you can do with Hulk hands. Just putting it out there. Xbox 360, Nintendo 64. Beyblades. I remember those bad boys. Model racetrack extensions. Yeah, you guys remember the little RC racetracks that the car would just stay on the same track and you just push a little button and it goes faster and eventually just flies off the track? Those were fun for like 5 minutes every Christmas, weren't they? Aw, damn, I'm sure your parents were pissed, John. I don't remember them caring that much about it, to be honest. All right. John, did you read my message? What's your message? I'll get to the question if you posted it. James Cameron's Spider-Man would have been great. Yeah, talk about one of the biggest missed opportunities of all the time. So back in the 90s, James Cameron wanted to make a Spider-Man movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker. And he also wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Dr. Ock. And I think that would have been, or Doc Ock, sorry. That would have been an awesome 90s Spider-Man movie. And if anyone could have done it justice, it would have been James Cameron. All right, I'm going to take a quick little 30-second break. That way you guys don't have to see me blowing my nose because I feel like it's about to drip out any second now. Don't you go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, that feels so much better. Okay. I was starting to sound like Nicolas Cage, all nasally. Oh, for our next main question, first I'm going to have a shark in my pocket or something. All right. The next question comes from, let's scroll up. Let's scroll way up. Here we go. Skylar Wheelock says, Matt Damon seems incredibly invested in the Odyssey. I have a feeling this might be his career-defining performance. Do you agree? I feel like Matt Damon's already had multiple career-defining performances. I feel like this will be good, but I don't feel like it'll be anything that's going to be that overly mind-blowing. You know, I think it'll be fulfilling, maybe. I like me some Matt Damon. But I don't know. You know, for me, like, Good Will Hunting is his career-defining performance. You know, I would even say like his role in The Martian was, you know, a great Matt Damon performance. So I don't know if this will be. You know, that's sort of like saying, well, Brad Pitt's career-defining performance was his role as Achilles in Troy. You know, it was okay, but I don't think it's the best Brad Pitt performance, if you will. So I don't know. Hopefully it is. I hope that was the most non-committal answer I could give you. But I hope it's good. I do. The next one comes from Caleb. Caleb. How's it going once again, Caleb? And by the way, thank you for the very, very nice, generous super chat question here. Let's dive into it. John, I am not a serial killer. I'm glad you prefaced with that. I typically always preface with that when I meet someone in person for the first time. Anyway, let's continue on. How much would it cost for you to do a home inspection on my house in Texas? I am completely serious if you would be willing and able to. I think it would make a great story for us both. Flight and hotel travel, all that. Hey man, I'm not licensed in Texas, but I can give you some advice. Also, if you don't want me to fly there and give you a home inspection, I can do it via FaceTime and give you sort of a visual examination if you walk around with a camera in your hand. Just putting it out there. We'll call it a walk and talk inspection, if you will. But I could potentially do that if you'd like. Now, the question is, Caleb, do I have to wear clothes when I do the home inspection? Is this sort of like one of those maids that you hire that come clean your house, but they do it nude? It's like, yeah, they'll clean your house, but you're also getting a show along the way. But just know, I do have a price, and I'm cheap. So send me an email, man. We'll try to make something happen. But yeah, I could do that for you. All right. John, can you just go downstairs and inspect my basement, and the next thing I know, I wake up in a well, looking up, naked, crawling at the side of it? And you're telling me I need to starve myself for 3 days and put lotion on my skin? And I willingly do it. Absolutely. All right. But anyway, man, thank you so much for the question. And thank you, Caleb. I'll give you a home inspection report. All right. Carter Lovejoy. How's it going, Carter? Since this year is coming to an end, how did that happen? What movies do you hope to see on 4K in 2026? Also, 4K Blu-ray will be 10 years old in 2026. Can you believe that? Well, dude, first and foremost, what happened in 2025? It just seemed like I blinked. It happened. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how I got here. And all of a sudden, in 2 more days, it'll be Christmas. It doesn't even feel like it's going to be Christmas. I don't know if it's maybe me, my old age, or my disassociation from reality. It could be a multitude of those things. But more importantly, I truly feel like time is going faster. Something in the universe, or maybe the Earth's magnetic poles are shifting, or maybe it's actually spinning a little bit quicker, and technically it is, but something is off, and it's going very fast, and it doesn't feel like it's reality anymore. I think reality is moving away. Do I sound utterly insane right now? Does anyone else agree with me? Did 2025 go quicker than any other year that you can remember in existence? For me, I think it did. But let's go to the next one here before I sound utterly insane. But yeah, the fact that 4K will be 10 years old next year is just like, we have to say this first. 4K will be the last physical media optical disc you ever see. That's it. It's not getting any better. You'll never see 6K, no 8K. 4K is it. It's done. So I will say this. If there's movies that you like physical media, buy as much shit on 4K as you possibly can, because it'll be the last remaining physical copy of that movie with the highest resolution you will probably ever be able to get. And that's okay. You know, I think 4K for me, if we just stop at 4K resolution, I'm okay with that. I really am. You know, I think that's good enough for the home viewing experience. I don't think I'm ever going to have a 40-foot projector screen in my house, so I think that resolution will be more than sufficient for the rest of my life. But then again, people used to probably say the same thing about VHS tapes. They're like, hey, this looks really good on my 12-inch CRT TV. I don't think it will ever top this. Uranium Cranium says, John, the older you get, the less exciting Christmas becomes. Yeah, I understand all of those things. I absolutely do. Don't get me wrong. I still have like childhood-like sensibilities. You're talking to a grown man wearing a Macaulay Culkin sweater and no pants. Okay? I understand all of those things, and I do. And I still have that Christmas spirit. You know, I love watching Christmas movies that I love. I like sipping on eggnog. And by the way, sipping on eggnog, I think I've drank it 3 times in my life. But I like Christmas cookies and hot cocoa. I like those things, you know? I like the concept of building a snowman, not so much the execution. It gets really boring and repetitive very, very quickly. And plus, who has a big carrot just sitting around in their house to give a snowman a nose? Not me. If I buy carrots, it's probably little baby carrots, and that's just not going to be fulfilling. But then again, I guess my snowman will have a nice little nose. That'll be nice. So anyway, where was I going with that? I'm not quite sure. I think it's best to move on now. Okay, let's go to the next one here. The next one comes from... And by the way, Carter, thank you so much for the question, man. Thank you so much. And here is a party popper just for you. And you know what, Carter? Because I like you so much and you just reminded me of something, how about we do a very impromptu Blu-ray collection update? Here it goes. So the first movie that I received this week, speaking of 4K and physical media, we got to talk about these things, is the new movie, A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, starring Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell. Now, I remember watching the trailers for this movie in the theater for like what seemed like an eternity, and the trailer was way too long. It looked sort of like a movie I would never actually go to watch at the theater, and it looked like a movie maybe like my mom would watch at home. Now, I'm sure this is probably a decent movie with some good performances, and I like both lead actors in said movie, but I just had a theory about this movie that was, are both these characters dying of a terminal illness and they just both kind of die at the end of the movie? Is that what's happening here? And I don't want to spoil anything, but that was just my assumption. I don't even know if that's true or not. I do not. That was just my assumption based on the movie and the title. A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. That just means like it's going to be a bittersweet romance movie, right? They both die. Okay. So anyway, I got that on Blu-ray, and I think this is available to buy now. So there's that. And it's rated R. So that's nice. The next thing we need to talk about here, the next movie, is a 4K movie, Speak of the Devil, and the devil's name is... What is it? Well, I actually forgot. Was it the Creeper? Yeah, the Creeper. Anyway, I was going to say the Gripper, but he's called the Creeper, played by Ethan Hawke. Now, Black Phone 2, I was not a huge fan of this movie. I actually feel like this movie at times was a little bit underwhelming as far as like the story and some of the logic. And as far as the character of the Creeper goes, I thought he was really sort of underutilized in this movie, and I was expecting them to like push the limitations and truly make the Creeper feel like this sinister, evil son of a bitch. And I just don't feel like they ever really go as far as they should with this movie to make it terrifying and uneasy. It just sort of feels substandard to me. And some of the more fantastical elements of these movies, I just feel like they're not explored in an interesting way. I get that you can go into a phone booth and hear voices, but like, okay, can you do something else with this concept, please? And the entire backdrop of this movie, where they go to a summer camp, but it's winter, and then half the movie takes place on a frozen lake. I don't know. To me, it wasn't that intriguing of a backdrop and an atmosphere for this movie. And I was just hoping for more because I thought the first movie was really good. You know, it was a low budget horror movie. And I thought the concept of kidnapping children and putting them in a basement, that just speaks to me for some reason. And once again, I'm a dude wearing a Macaulay Culkin t-shirt. So there's that. But I just feel like what they did with the sequel was not what I wanted to see. I think if anything, this should have been like a prequel movie to the events of Black Phone 1. I think that would have been much more fascinating than watching the demented creeper character come back and ice skate on a frozen lake. I just, I didn't care about it. So anyway, I do have the 4K here. It comes with a really cool slipcover. I mean, the artwork looks really neat. I'm sure the picture quality looks great. But man, this just didn't quite deliver on what I wanted it to. All right. And the last physical media movie, or the last 4K title we need to talk about in this very quick Blu-ray collection video, is one of my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movies of all time, and it might almost be my favorite, right behind There Will Be Blood, and that's Boogie Nights. And look at the cover of that. Look at Roller Girl right there. Oh, I remember watching Roller Girl for the first time on Showtime at 1 o'clock in the morning as a young man back in the late 1990s. But anyway, this is a phenomenal movie. And every time I think about this movie, I close my eyes and I see these bright, shiny letters. And they say, Dirk Diggler. And the letters get brighter and brighter until they explode. That's what I was thinking about, Jack. So anyway, that's my shitty Mark Wahlberg impression. But if you've never seen Boogie Nights, I think you should watch it. To me, this is a phenomenal experience. I'm happy to have it on 4K, and I would like to go revisit this at some point. But man, a movie with Burt Reynolds focusing on the porn industry in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Every performance in this movie is top notch. Philip Seymour Hoffman also stars in this movie. And some of the funniest shit throughout this film is the porn parody of Mark Wahlberg and John C. Reilly teaming up as this like badass action duo. And they're shooting these shitty like vignettes on rooftops with crappy dialogue that you would only see in a porn parody movie. But I think it's really compelling stuff. And I think it's hilarious. So anyway, definitely check out Boogie Nights. And I can't wait to check this out on 4K at some point. So those are some new Blu-ray movies that I picked up or that were sent to me recently. So, all right. Dustin Rich says, "Hey, John, what are you doing over there?" Yeah, the Grabber. I'm going to call him the Grabber from now on. It's the Grabber. I'm sorry. It's the Grabber or the Creeper or the Gripper. Who cares? Who cares? All right. I call him the Creeper. I'm calling him the Creeper. I think the Creeper's a better name. I really do. The Creeper. All right. Obviously, those movies had no impact on me whatsoever. All right. Let's go to the next one here. Jeff Hostman says, Paul Thomas Anderson's best movie, the characters going through the 70s and 80s, but the atmosphere of the time period was top notch. Yeah, I love it. I love everything about the movie Boogie Nights. All right, the Snagger, the Creeper from Scooby-Doo. Well, same difference, right? Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, Interstellar is about a father who loves his family to save the world. The Odyssey is about a father who returns home to save his family. Both movies are about getting back to Anne Hathaway. Maybe we could put The Dark Knight Rises in there too. Yeah, but then again, all the great classics, there's only like 20 great structures of stories that you can tell. And what you do is you just cycle, rinse, and repeat or change little things along the way. But a man trying to get back home is phenomenal storytelling. That's what all big epics are basically about if you break them down. And I'll prove it to you right now. Are you ready? Gladiator, The Patriot, Braveheart. I'm sure there's more. But anyway, those are 3 off the top of my head. All right, so I'm okay with that. Now, my biggest problem will be if love conquers all, space, time, and dimension, that might take me out of the movie a little bit. Also, if I can't hear the dialogue of anyone talking in the movie, that might take me out of it just a little bit as well. All right, the next one comes from Where is my leather strap? I love that name. Here it goes. Does Sydney Sweeney show Amanda Seyfried her French flipper trick in The Housemaid? Well, you might see a little bit of something. That's all I'm going to say. But Sydney Sweeney definitely earns her paycheck in The Housemaid. We'll just leave it there. She knows what she's doing. She knows. She knows. And that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, thank you for the question. And you get a party popper. All right, the next one comes from, let's see. And by the way, Carter Lovejoy, once again, thanks for the question. Did I give you a party popper, man? If not, you get another one. There you go. All right, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock. Once again, who says, Rob Reiner showed up in The Wolf of Wall Street for like 15 minutes and stole every scene he was in. Elite line delivery. Played the perfect role of the exhausted father dealing with his son's shit. He had perfect comedic timing and exceptional talent. Absolutely. Yeah, the thing I remember most about his character in Wolf of Wall Street was when Leonardo DiCaprio is doing narration talking about his dad. He's like, my father would sit at home and watch whatever shitty 80s TV show he was watching. And every time someone would call the phone, he put on this weird, bizarre British accent. Hello? What the fuck are they doing calling me on a Tuesday night at my house? That's what I remember most about Rob Reiner in that movie. But good stuff. John always ignores me, Xavier the One says. Xavier, I'm not ignoring you. I'm giving you all the attention you can possibly. All right, let's see. Xavier the One said this. John, wait till you run. Oh, never mind. Let's go to the next question. I'm kidding. John, wait till you run into the people under the stairs during your home inspection. Dude, sometimes I get weird feelings like that. Yesterday or the day before, I was in this basement. It was terrifying. It was dark. It was seedy. It definitely looked like somewhere that the grabber or the creeper or the gripper would put young children and lock them up. And I thought to myself, you could probably put a lot of kids down here and lock the door. I was like, yeah. So anyway, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Clark1140, who says, what you hoping for Christmas this year, Johnny Cakes? I got Weapons and Life of Chuck on Blu-ray, some Legos, and a boogie board for Mad Surfing. Well, it sounds like a great Christmas, man. For me, you know what me and my wife do? Rather than give each other stupid shit that you buy off Amazon that's going to break in 3 days anyway, we just say, let's not buy each other anything, and let's go get a couples massage and spend the day at the spa. And, have a drink. That's what we're going to do. It's all about experiences. You can buy miscellaneous little junk off Amazon, little trinkets that collect dust that aren't quite useful, or you can give yourself an experience. And an experience never dies. It lives on in infamy for years and decades to come. So anyway, yeah, probably going to do that. Plus, the older I get, the more I need a massage. My right trapezius muscle feels a bit pinched. So anyway, that's what we're probably going to do. Deadliest Cousin, how's it going? Says, Jonold. Thank you for calling me Jonold. I'm not a pervert, I just wanted a Turbo Man doll. Okay, I popped when I saw you on WrestlePalooza. Have you seen Raw from last night? I personally liked it, but the small things is my nitpickings. So not only did I watch Raw last night, I actually went to the pre-recorded taping of it in Grand Rapids, Michigan on Friday. I was there at Raw. I was right behind the hard cam side. It was fun. They had a double taping of Raw and SmackDown back to back. I will say this about Raw. If you watched it last night on Netflix, it was an hour-and-a-half episode, which is about 45 minutes shorter than it should be. And that's because they were doing two shows back to back. But it was a good time. It was fun. I got a pretzel. I got a beer. I had some fun. But yeah, Raw last night was sort of forgettable at best. I feel like WWE right now are just trying to get through the rest of the year, and then they're hopefully going to start trying in 2026, because it just feels like just drizzling shits right now when it comes to storytelling. Favorite Christmas cookie or candy or treat? I've been eating these little Debbie Christmas tree cakes that they have. Now, each one is like 600 or 900 calories or something. It's enough to put you in a diabetic coma if you eat one too quick. But these little Christmas tree cakes, they're so delectable and delicious. And they have cream filling in the middle. And they have little sparkles and sprinkles on top of them. And they're shaped like a Christmas tree. But I will say this. When I eat half of one, halfway through it, I'm like, this is really good. And then by the time I finish it, I feel like I'm going to vomit, but I still finish it every time. They make me feel utterly disgusting. Like sometimes when I'm done eating one of these little Debbie Christmas tree cakes, I literally have to go brush my teeth because I feel like there's so much sugar in my mouth that it's literally eating my teeth away. Like I just drank acid. But anyway, my favorite Christmas snack, I like a good Christmas cookie, if you will. Yeah, a little frosting on that bad boy. Absolutely. I'll tell you one thing that I've grown to hate over the years, though. That's a candy cane. I'm sorry. I don't need to suck that much peppermint in the shape of a candy cane. And plus, halfway through it, it just gets disgusting. But when I was a young kid, there was nothing better than sucking on a candy cane. And maybe you're like me, but my goal when I suck on a candy cane was my objective was to make a Christmas candy cane shank. You're probably thinking to yourself, what is that? Well, let me elaborate. A Christmas candy cane shank is where you suck the candy cane to the point where it becomes a sharp, stabbable instrument. For some odd reason, why do kids want to do that with candy canes? It's very dangerous. All right, let's go to the next one. Uranium Cranium says, from the products she produces, Little Debbie should be called Big Debbie. Good point. Good point. Rangu1FU says, you were right, John. Boogie Nights is better than One Battle After Another. Thank you. I feel like anyone who's watched One Battle After Another has really never watched Boogie Nights or hasn't watched it anytime soon. And a lot of people that I've talked to, like, and when I say younger people, I mean people in their 20s. I'm like, yeah, but you like One Battle After Another. Have you seen Boogie Nights? I'm like, it's a better movie, man. It's way better. They're like, no. I'm like, see, it's just, you don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, I definitely recommend Boogie Nights. I think it's way better than One Battle After Another. Far superior. I did have some of the Sour Patch Kid candy canes. But the thing is, when it comes to sour candy, I don't want to suck it. I want to chew it. Remember I said that. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from... and by the way, Deadliest Cousin, there's some pyro for you. Thank you for your question, man. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, I miss the nostalgia of what Christmas meant to me. It makes me understand movies like Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story better now that I'm an adult. Yeah, you know, the thing about those movies, it's all about reminiscing about a better time in life. It really is. The magic, the wonderment, knowing your whole life's ahead of you. And the only thing that matters is this magical holiday called Christmas. And that's the childlike wonderment of Christmas, isn't it? And the older you get, the more that fades away. And then you wither, and then you die. Let's go to the next question. The next one comes from Bob, who says, do you like the movie Bad Santa? I love the movie Bad Santa. I could probably go watch Bad Santa right now. The little boy with the wooden pickle, Billy Bob Thornton playing the biggest drunk piece of shit that's ever existed in cinema. I love Bad Santa. Now, the sequel was not very good. Was not a fan of the sequel whatsoever. But the first Bad Santa, that's a good time. It really is. You want a rated R Christmas movie? That would be my recommendation. You ain't get a shit right for a week. Let's go to the next one. The next one comes from Kevy Rez, who says, what are your thoughts on John Cena's last match? I think overall it was a good match. It had a lot of ups, a lot of downs. I think John Cena was working pretty well. I don't know who would have been a better opponent. And now you could have pulled out a nostalgia act, but I think Gunther was the safe bet to have a good match. I will say, as far as the finish goes of John Cena tapping out with a smile on his face, there was a couple ways they could have went about that. A lot of people wanted to see John Cena simply pass out. And I get the logic of that because he's the guy who never gives up. But that's the character of John Cena. The real John Cena, him tapping out with a smile on his face was basically his retirement. He was happy to be there. He was happy to finally tap out of pro wrestling. That was his retirement. He tapped out finally. He left. That's a tap out. And he served his role. So I liked it. I liked it for the most part. I did. So I thought it was good. I think it was probably as good as it could have been. So those are my quick thoughts on it. The next one comes from Logan CD 1635, who says, John, take a drink of your caffeinated beverage. What if Tim Allen was replaced with Nick Nolte in the Santa Claus? Well, I will take a drink of this caffeinated beverage. And I guess if Tim Allen was replaced by Nick Nolte in the Santa Claus, it would probably go a little something like this. I wake up in the morning, and in the afternoon I look like this. And scene. Let's go to the next one here. And by the way, thank you for the question. You get a party popper. Hey, listen, The Santa Claus is a great movie. I remember seeing that movie in theaters with my dad. And the thing is, I don't know what it was about every movie I saw in the early 90s, but they all revolved around divorce. And both of my parents did, in fact, have a divorce. And I would hang out with my dad on the weekend. And in the movie The Santa Claus, Scott Kelvin, he is a single father with his kid on the weekend. And it just was so relatable to me. And I was thinking to myself, well, if my dad kills a guy on the roof, then he becomes Santa Claus and we can hang out anytime I have a snow globe. And I was just like, that sounds like a really solid, logical thing. So anyway, there's that. Let's keep going. And thank you for the question. Oh, the next one comes from, and by the way, I'm doing my best to catch up here on the questions, so just keep them coming. We'll get to every single question, I assure you. Matt Heeman 625 says, John, thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom? To me, it seems like Marvel is desperate and making a someday move to the past Star Wars films that we don't mention. Okay, so let's talk about Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom, shall we? I say this. If you can no longer have Robert Downey Jr. play the most pivotal role in the MCU as a charismatic good guy, Tony Stark, well, if you have this entire universe as a multiverse and you can have different dimensions and variations and variants of people and characters, well, why not bring back who was the most charismatic main antagonist as the main charismatic protagonist, or I'm sorry, protagonist to the antagonist of the story. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm okay with it. I really am. And I'm sure that you could say maybe another actor would be a great Dr. Doom, and I'm sure there is one. But I think the connection going back to the original MCU with Robert Downey Jr. coming back, I think it just adds something else to it. I think his interactions will be much more interesting to watch. And I'd like to see Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal as Dr. Doom. Chewing up the scenery as now a bad guy, a villain. I don't mind it. I really don't. I think if anything, it kind of makes it more interesting. What are they going to do? Cast Cillian Murphy in the role It's like, oh, okay, well, that was okay, but I don't know. I think it's more intriguing that Robert Downey Jr. comes back. And let's just wait and see what they do with it before we completely shit on it. Maybe it's going to be really integral that they have Robert Downey coming back. Maybe it makes complete and total sense in the multiverse logic of things. Or maybe they're just grasping at straws and needing name recognition and they think this will do it. I don't know. We shall see. But I don't mind it. I really don't. Someone said, my dad was a snowman. You know, that movie also, that shit makes me sad. The movie Jack Frost with Michael Keaton. Like, thinking about that movie, it does hit home for me. It really does. That's also another movie that hits home for me. It's very, 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 it's a little too close to home, to be honest with you. Now, my dad was never a snowman, but man, oh man, if I could have one more day with my dad, and he just so happened to be a snowman that was going to melt away, I think that would be, that would be worth it. But once again, I don't think he'd have a nose because who buys carrots that large anymore? Everyone buys little baby carrots. Give him a cucumber for a nose or something. I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Dustin Rich says, John, if you knew anything about Doctor Doom from the comics, you would hate the idea of Robert Downey Jr. playing him. Well, I know he's a Middle Eastern European man as Doctor Doom. I get it. He exists in the Renaissance era of things. I understand these things. I get it. But at the same time, I guess I'm okay with it. Robert Downey Jr. can act. Let's just see what he does. Maybe he's going to do a really good portrayal of the character. Or maybe he'll just be Robert Downey Jr., where he comes across like a witty asshole. I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one here. What do your parents think about your channel now? My mom watches the live streams quite often and religiously, so maybe she's watching now. Hi, Mom. How are you? What'd you get me for Christmas? All right. The next one comes from Taka, who says, John, big love from Japan. What do you think happened to Zac Efron's face? Oh, man. That whole breaking his jaw excuse, it's like, okay, I get that you broke your jaw, man. And that completely, I get it. But by breaking your jaw, did you get lip fillers to fix it too? Or what's happening here with these embellished cheekbones and your head became a Lego block character? What the fuck did you do, Zac Efron? You look like you got stung by bees. Just, man, he was a good looking guy. Great looking. But yeah, I don't know what happened to Zac Efron's face. I don't know. That's what happens when you're in Hollywood too long. You get self-image issues and you start fixing shit that does not need to be fixed. But anyway, let's keep going here. And by the way, man, big love from Japan. That's awesome. It's so bizarre to me that someone in Japan's watching right now. It's surreal to me. Anyway, he says it's from his accident back in 2013, but his face has completely changed in the last 4 years or so. Dustin Rich says, did he break his jaw or get a new one 3 sizes too big? Let's look at it together. Zac Efron face. Hang on. Let's find a better one here. All right, here it is. All right, that's what he used to look like. And that's what he looks like now. So, like, the protruding prosthetic jaw that looks like it belongs in a DC comic book, And then those lips right there, just magically all plumped up. It looks like he was sucking on a vacuum hose. Yeah, man, I don't know. That does not look human to me. But what do I know? Let's have another angle of this, shall we? Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the next topic. He does he does look like a Lego now. I know. He look. Let me show you something. Okay, let me show you guys something. Zac Efron, take a look at the picture on the right. Really stare at the picture of Zac Efron on the right. Are you staring at it? Hyper focus on it. 3, 2, 1. Exact. Identical. All right, let's go to the next one here. He looks like Marv from Sin City. He does. Except at least those were prosthetics. Then again, Mickey Rourke's face doesn't look much better. It looks like it's literally falling off of his skull. And I love me some Mickey Rourke, but man, what is it with people in Hollywood? They just, everything has to be cut off and changed and plumped up. Ugh. John, did you go to your high school prom? I went to my high school prom for like 15 minutes and then we left. It was just, I don't want to listen to the Macarena and dance around with these people I don't like. I think everyone I knew, all my friends probably stayed at prom for like 7 minutes and left. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one comes from Daniel Glassman 303, who says, John, I rediscovered your channel early this year. Your streams have given me so much entertainment and laughter this year, and I want to say thank you. Well, thank you, man. Thank you so much for that. That does mean a lot. I'm glad you rediscovered my channel. Thank you. You know, I try to always change it up. You know, I try to make content that's authentic to who I am and what I'm feeling in the time period that it exists in. So thank you for that. It does mean a lot. And please keep watching, man. Thanks. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you so much. And here's a party popper just for you. Open up. 3, 2, 1. All right. And by the way, Matt Heeman, I owe you a party popper as well. There you go, buddy. All right. We're going through party poppers. Crazy tonight. I'm glad so when I went to buy party poppers at Walmart right before the live stream tonight, because I wanted to give you guys some spectacle in the live stream, right? I literally looked high and low for all the party poppers. Could not find them. Then all of a sudden I look up on the top shelf and there's a box of party poppers. What do? I don't just take the box down and like open it up and take a couple out. No. I took that whole fucking box up to the front counter and bought them. They're probably thinking, what's this guy doing? I don't know. All right, the next one comes from Cali2Zona32, who says, final flicking thoughts on The Shining and Dr. Sleep. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. I like The Shining. I don't think it's like one of my favorite movies of all time. I enjoy the performances. Visuals from Stanley Kubrick cannot be matched, cannot be topped. But I've never loved The Shining. You know, I respect it. I appreciate it. I love the performances. But it's never been one of my favorite movies of all time. But I think it's definitely a film that needs to be watched at least once by everyone, if that makes any sense. And Jack Nicholson playing a crazy manic drunk in that film just gives me everything I need every time. And plus the location and the setting, it's eerie shit. When it comes to Dr. Sleep, I thought it was okay. I know a lot of people love it. As a predecessor to The Shining, and I think some of the performances are really good, but I just don't necessarily like it that much. I would probably never rewatch it again. There's not a lot that happens in this movie, or in that movie, that really intrigues me all that much. Like, Ewan McGregor was great, but the whole like gypsy subplot thing with Rebecca Ferguson, I think that's who it revolves around. I don't remember. Just like, I don't care. So, and plus, you know, when you compare the two movies, I get that, I just wish, Dr. Sleep, I wish it had the same, it just didn't quite have the same atmosphere or like filmmaking quality of what Kubrick could do. And I know it's hard to duplicate that. And if you do duplicate it, people are just going to say you're copying Kubrick's style. But just the way he shot The Shining, I think it's just a technical masterpiece. And then you watch Dr. Sleep, and it's just like, it just feels like a standard modern day movie to me. I don't know. I know people like it. I thought it was okay. I have a review for the movie, to be honest. To go back and remember what I really thought about it, I'd have to watch that review, because I have not watched the movie since theaters. Uranium Cranium says Stephen King hated The Shining. Yeah, I know. He didn't think it was a very good adaptation. But then again, Stephen King also directed Maximum Overdrive. So, well, you know. And also, he's completely crazy in his old age. Dr. Sleep's theatrical cut is awful, but the director's cut is actually good. Yeah, I think I've only seen the theatrical cut, so I don't know. I thought it was just okay. I'd almost say it's mediocre, to be honest with you. I think it's good mediocre, but mediocre to me. All right, let's go to the next one here. Night King 01 has tipped. You suck. Why did you say I suck, Night King? That's not very nice of you. All right. Fuck you, Night King 01. Hope you burn in hell. Don't you ever leave me, Night King. Don't you ever leave me. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one comes from Libby Films, who says, what movies would make it in your top 20 favorites of all time? Well, Libby Films, I've made a top 20 list of all time. I've done this once. Would you like to go back and look at it right now? I would. Give me 2 seconds. I will find it. Hang on. Hang on a second here as I find this. Okay. YouTube's streaming software is all crazy tonight. I'm looking at the main page that I look at when I stream, and it's like it's not even showing up. So I don't know what's going on with that. Let me refresh this. Hang on. Sorry. Don't blame me. Blame YouTube. Okay, now it's working. Okay, whatever. Flick pick top 20 movies of all time. Now, I made this video, I would say back, what was this, 2010? I made this video Shut up. I made this video 14 years ago. All right, and I want everyone to look at it again because I'm a narcissist and I want to look at myself. That's what I'm doing. That's why I make YouTube videos. But here it is. Now look at that guy. Look at that guy right there. Now let's watch this. Watch YouTube try to give me a copyright strike for watching my own video.
Something to me, and if I wanted to give that generic version of what a top 20 list is, I could do it. But these are movies that matter to me. They influenced my life over the years, and each and every single one of these has a story behind why I like it. So let's just get started.
Yeah, so anyway, I shot that video with a little crappy, what was it called? Like, it was like a little square camera that clearly sounds like shit. It sounds like I was screaming into a tin can. The audio on it sucked, but it was like an easy point and shoot camera at the time that cost like $100. And, so I had the Warriors on there, Catch Me If You Can, American Psycho, Hook. The Rock was on there. I don't know if The Rock would still make my top 20 movies of all time. Dazed and Confused was on there. Back to the Future, The Dark Knight. This might be one of my favorite scenes.
He was a little crazy.
Hang on.
Manure scene.
Let's watch this Batman clip. You guys ready for it?
Number 9. I kind of bend the rules on this top 20 list, and I actually have 2 movies in the place of number 9 because I consider this one big movie, and you might disagree with that, and that's okay because I almost do too. But and that because about the pool.
Oh, there's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know if that would still be in my top 20. That might be changed. Silence of the Lambs would definitely still be in there. Home Alone would probably be in there. Terminator 2 Judgment Day would be there. Point Break would still be there. Stand By Me would still be there. Shawshank Redemption would still be there. And then at number 1, I had Forrest Gump. Now, there's definitely a few movies I would include in my top 20 at this point. Obviously, probably something like Nightcrawler would be in there. There's a few other movies over the last decade or two I'd probably include in there. Now, the biggest question is, what would I still make number 1? And, it's just like Forrest Gump, man. It's when I watch movies like that, I sort of feel like I'm watching like 7 movies in one, and it has so much rewatchability to me, and the performances. Oh, I'll tell you another movie I probably might put in my top 20. It might be the movie Castaway. I just rewatched that for like the 50th time the other day, and I was like, I still love this movie. I get more and more out of that movie every time. So I don't know. I do need to make a new top 20 list at some point. Like V for Vendetta, love the movie, but I don't know if it'd still be my top 20 of all time. So there's that. I was looking for something. I threw a baby or something in this video at one point. I'm looking for that. Hang on. Oh my God. I forgot about this.
Who cuts the skin off of large ladies and puts them in a well. What a great character. It puts the lotion in the basket. It puts the lotion in the basket. It puts the fucking lotion in the basket.
So anyway, I think we should move on immediately from that. Let's keep going. Yeah, I like Jaws, but to be honest with you, I don't know if it's my top 20 movies of all time. I love it. It's iconic. I love everything about Jaws. I love the poster. I think it's the best poster ever made. I just don't know if it's in my top 20. I'm weird like that. I'm super weird like that. Like, I don't think there's any Star Wars movies that makes my top 20. Top 50? Maybe. Top 100? Absolutely. Top 20? I don't know. All right, let's keep going. Are there any top 10 lists that you would revitalize, or are you okay with how your list stands as it is? There's definitely a lot of top 10s I'd redo. But for the most part, like I would say like 80% of it is still accurate for the most part on my top 10 movie list. Yeah, Fury Road maybe could be in there. Maybe. You like that blonde wig? I know I do. All right, let's keep going. And by the way, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question, Libby Films. You get another party popper, man. All right, let's go to the next one here. Libby also says, should I meet John Cena? Also, have you seen the John Cena prank call video? I have not seen the John Cena prank call video, and I think you should meet John Cena. I think he's doing some Comic-Cons or something soon, and I think to meet him and get a picture, it's like $250. So that's kind of cool. I mean, would I pay $250 to meet John Cena and have a picture with him? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. I like John Cena, but it's not like he's my favorite guy of all time by any means. So, but should you do it? If you want to, I think you should. In 50 years, are you going to regret spending $250 to meet John Cena? I doubt it. All right. Dustin Rich says, hire Gary Busey as your co-host ASAP. Listen, I would love to. Gary Busey has the voice of an angel, and he looks like an angel himself, a drunk angel that's losing his mind. But nevertheless, I wish I could. All right. It's $147. Now, does the $147 include the picture and the autograph, or is it $147 just for the picture? What is that? What does that consist of? All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes... Just bit my lip. Ow. The next one comes from Maya Dixie Normus. I knew exactly what you were doing with that username, and I'm not going to shy away from it. Let's continue on. John, why did you watch the Charlie Kirk death so many times? Also, did you watch the video of an Australian hero disarm a terrorist while getting shot? I watched a video recently of a guy in Walmart being arrested for shoplifting that tries to shoot a police officer. It's like, dude, you were about to get like a ticket for shoplifting something that costs $7. Now you're getting charged with attempted murder. You troglodyte. Anyway, why did I watch the Charlie Kirk video so many times? I don't know if I watched it so many times, but when I did watch it, I watch things like that just because like it looks so surreal to me, and it doesn't look like reality. And it's so unsettling to me that it takes me a few times to process things like that. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Why do we watch anything that's that graphic? Why do we do it? What's wrong with us? Is that the psychology of human beings? Do we watch morbid things to understand it because it terrifies us? I couldn't tell you. But I also wanted to understand what just happened and how. Maybe that's why. But anyway, Merry Christmas. The next one comes from Dustin Rich. You can hire Gary Busey, make it happen. You can do it. I don't know if I can get him on the channel. I really don't. All right, the next one comes from Nicholas Sterry, 1634. All right, Nicholas, here it goes. Here's $10 to watch The Ninth Gate, then talk about it on a live stream. Roman Polanski's directing, Johnny Depp the lead, plus weapons. Thanks, XOXO. It's on the to-do list. I will watch it at some point. When it comes to Roman Polanski, the man has a dark, riddled past, to say the least. That's why he lives in a non-extraditional country, because he did some bad things in the 70s. But anyway, I love his movie, The Pianist. I think it's probably one of the most riveting films I've ever seen. If you've never seen The Pianist, to look at the atrocities that human beings committed against one another during World War II and the Holocaust, it makes you lose faith in humanity to some degree. But anyway, I did run into Roman Polanski once. And isn't that a weird, crazy thing to say? I've shared it once, but I'll share it again. And I never thought I would see Roman Polanski in person ever, because he's hiding out in Switzerland. Look it up why. But anyway, when I was at the Zurich Film Festival back in 2016, I was walking down an alleyway, and it was beside one of the theaters where they were having screenings. And I remember looking down the alleyway. It was probably like 25 feet away from me. And all of a sudden, this side door opens up and like 5 security guards walk out, and there's like a black SUV. And Roman Polanski comes out of the side door, and he's like 5'2", short as shit, and just like looks around and jumps in the side of this SUV, and they take off. So that's my encounter with Roman Polanski. And by the way, thanks for the question. Actually, give me 2 seconds. The crazy thing is, I have run out of party poppers, but I have more. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab some more. Actually, I lied to you. I got one more right here. 3, 2, 1. All right. I got plenty of party poppers. We're not going anywhere, all right? It's the Christmas season. 'Tis the time for a party popper. All right, let's go to the next one here. He probably knew who you were. Hey, Roman, I'm the Flick Pick. You know me? Okay. The next one comes from... by the way, Nicholas, thank you for the question. The next one comes from Libby Films once again. Libby Films, why are you being so good to me tonight? Anyway, here it goes. Would you rather see a Tarantino or Nolan do a horror film next? Personally, I could see Nolan do a demon possession movie with a real demon, or Tarantino slasher film. I think both would be interesting, especially in the horror genre. I think a lot would have something to say and make it unique. And whatever genre either director tackles, I would be interested to see it. But it really depends. I could see Tarantino getting adding so much comedy to the movie where it's no longer scary, but it's almost like a satire of a horror film. Like, look at anything like he's written, like oh gosh, what is it? I cannot remember the movie. I'm sorry. My brain's melting right now. Where is it? This is not what I wanted. No, I'm sorry. I cannot remember the name of this movie. I can. Selma Hayek's in the movie. Someone help me here. With George Clooney. From Dusk Till Dawn. Oh my God. That's when you know we've been talking way too long. Let me slap my hand. Stupid. Yes, from Dusk. I feel like if Tarantino made another horror film, it would be like Dusk Till Dawn. It wouldn't necessarily be scary or terrifying. So I almost feel like Nolan might make the better horror film. I really do. I really do. So there's that. Dustin Rich says, John, are you over YouTube? Be honest with us. No. No, I'm not over it. I'm just, I like doing live streams more. And I think going forward in the future, I would just simply do more live stream-esque things. And I want to do that on both channels. There's no reason we can't do 2 live streams a week, one on each channel. There's so much to talk about. And I think doing it live is just more fun and interactive. But I'm not over YouTube. I like watching YouTube. I like doing live streams. And keep in mind, I still do these on a weekly basis. I'm sitting here for 3 hours making YouTube content. Now, you can say like, well, there's other people that make more videos. Yeah, technically speaking, they make more videos. But I'm giving you more runtime of YouTube content. This is 3 hours. This isn't one review a week that's 4.5 minutes long with a 7-minute ad on it. No. We're talking about movies for 3 fucking hours, man. So I don't know if you could say I'm over it because I'm here talking about movies every week for 3+ hours. So, I think what I am over though, to some degree, is social media. I have no interest in TikTok. I have no interest in short form content. The more I see of it, the more I despise it. I just don't think it has any real value to it. I feel like it's like watching a lot of memes. Like memes are funny. They're enjoyable to look at for 2 seconds, but they don't really have any value. And it's like all these guys that make TikTok videos. It's like, yeah, people listen to you talk for 7 seconds or 2 minutes or 1 minute, but ultimately that's it. They're not seeking you out. They're being inundated with your content. And the thing about YouTube is my video doesn't just pop up and start playing as you're scrolling. You have to go to your sub box, click play, watch 2 ads, and then my stupid face comes on. So I think there's more of an immersive factor when it comes to YouTube. And I will always respect long form content more than short form content. And I think it's way more enjoyable to make. And I think it has more lineage, and I think it's going to stand the test of time. And also, like, you guys are here watching me right now, and we're talking back and forth, and we're having a dialogue, and I like that. So did I answer your question, or did I go off on some kind of weird tangent there for the last 2 minutes? I don't remember. Dustin Rich says, I'll be your editor. You just need to teach me how to edit. See, that's the problem. Paul says, live streams are better than over-edited, polished reviews. I like longer videos or shorter videos. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I just sitting there doing a 5-minute movie review is not that fun to me. There's so much more to talk about than that. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. No, I'm not over YouTube. I think I'm just over social media to some degree. I wish we could go back to a time like pre-2017. And I think that was the perfect blend of social media. I really do. That was just enough. All right, the next one comes from, and by the way, thank you for the question. Let me give you a little party pop. There you go. All right, the next one comes from Dustin Rich, who says, do you still play your SNES Classic? You once said you would run into Walmart like the T-1000 and stab an old lady to get it. Okay, so occasionally I do play my SNES Classic. It's been a while. I've been playing my Xbox mostly. I unfortunately downloaded the new Call of Duty Black Ops 7. It's a really shitty game. It's so junky. I don't know why the graphics look like Call of Duty graphics from 2011, but they do. And now you can run and wall jump, which I think is a really terrible mechanic. Anyway, so unnecessary. But I occasionally play that, but I have not played my SNES Classic in probably a handful of months. I did play my, when we were talking about Street Fighter in the last live stream afterwards, I went back here to shut off my Street Fighter Yoga Flame arcade 1-up thingy-majigger console. It's not a console. It's an arcade machine. And I did sit there and play Street Fighter for like 20 minutes. I was like, I miss doing shit like this. That was kind of fun. So anyway, let's go to the next one. And the next one comes from Sal5227 says, "Hey John, hope you have a nice holiday." Well, thank you, Sal, and I hope you have a nice one too. I hope all you guys have a good Christmas this year. I really do. Cloudy Rogajon back again says, "John, did you hear about the creator of Call of Duty, Vince Zampella, passing away in a car accident?" Well, speak of the devil, that's crazy. We just talked about Call of Duty. Ripped to a legend. Apparently he crashed his Ferrari on the freeway. Well, that sucks, man. Talk about having the world in the palm of your hand, and the next thing you know, it's just gone. Poof. It's kind of scary, isn't it? It doesn't matter how rich you are, how famous you are, it can all be taken away instantaneously, and we all end up in the same place. Remember that this holiday season, as you spend time with your loved ones. Embrace them to your bosom, and never let them go. But yeah, man, that sucks. The next one comes from Robert Giacento, 6323 says, "I don't know what it is about you tonight, John, but you just got that crazy look in your eye, like you could snap at any moment. Keep it up." Well, I don't know if you know this about me, but I always have that internal crazy monologue going in the back of my mind. Everywhere I go, if it's the Panda Express drive-thru or Walmart, I'm always thinking the most irrational, crazy thoughts. And sometimes in the live stream, those thoughts pour out and the mask ever so slightly slips. But thank you for joining me tonight, and I do appreciate it. I don't know. I'm feeling good tonight. How are you guys doing? I'm feeling good. I got my second wind right now. We're 2 hours and 43 minutes into the live stream. I'm feeling good. But thank you for the question, and let me dive into these party poppers here, man. I got to open these bad boys up. Hang on. But anyway, Robert G. Chenta, thank you so much for the question. And look what you did, you little jerk. Night King 01 back again says, "Did you see the rest of Death by Lightning?" I did not. I got to the second episode. That's as far as I've gotten. I'll watch it at some point, man. There's just been too much shit to watch in the last couple weeks. And we just, to the last week, the wife and I went back and rewatched the first 4 episodes of Stranger Things Season 5, just to rewatch those to get, acclimated and get ready for the second part of Season 5 coming out in 2 days, which I'm rather excited about. But anyway, yeah. But rewatching the first 4 episodes of Stranger Things Season 5, there's a few things that just, I don't know if they're working for me or they're drawing things out too long, or maybe it's just every single plan that they have is the most convoluted thing ever. But I'm hoping it picks up in episode 5 and 6. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one comes from Where Is My Leather Strap once again, who says, "Can you imagine if Carl from Sling Blade was in Office Space?" Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I could imagine that, actually. Imagine Carl from Office Space. You have Lumbergh, who comes in there and goes, "Yeah, okay, all right." And then all of a sudden Carl comes in he doesn't try to light the building on fire. He doesn't just quit his job. He doesn't take the fax machine and try to beat the shit out of it. No. Carl comes in with a sling blade and just slices Lumbergh's throat right there in the middle of everyone's cubicles. That's what Carl would do. Yep. Sounds like you got a case of the Mondays. Yeah, that'd be cool, man. By the way, thank you for the question. And speaking of Sling Blade, I am still looking for that movie on Blu-ray. I'm going to find it somewhere in the wild one day. I'm not paying $60 for it on eBay. I'm not. So with all that said, thanks for the question. Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from finishing Home Alone 2. It's like crazy that not a single person in New York tries to intervene on Kevin's behalf. Everyone just kind of walking by this little boy getting grabbed off the street by two scary guys. Nobody even yells, hey. Well, let's be honest with ourselves. That is the most realistic thing in Home Alone. Have you ever been in New York City or a large metropolis? If someone screams help, no one comes. You have to scream fire to get people's attention. That's a psychological fact. Have you ever seen videos that take place in the New York subway where people are getting mugged and beat up? Everyone just keeps walking. No one intervenes. So absolutely, I think that's the most realistic thing about Home Alone 2, that no one tries to intervene when Kevin's being abducted. But if you want to talk about realistic things, by the fourth time, Harry, is it Marv or Harry? It's Marv. By the fourth time, Marv gets hit in the face with a brick off the top of a 4-story building and just keeps getting back up. That's slightly unrealistic. The most unrealistic thing about Home Alone 2, if you pay close attention during the third act, is when they take the briefcase full of cash from Duncan's toy chest and they go inside of the building to chase after Kevin McAllister. Pay close attention. They leave that sack of cash right there on the sidewalk in New York City. The fact that wasn't picked up and taken by the time they came outside, that is the most unrealistic aspect of Home Alone 2. Let's go to the next question here. User wait for my username says, have a Merry Christmas, John. Well, you have a Merry Christmas too, and thank you for the bat nipples emoji, man. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock once again, who says, I think I made you proud, John. I recently showed my 68-year-old grandmother Parasite for the first time. And she's not a movie person, but she said that was the best movie she's ever seen. That's really intriguing if you showed your older grandmother Parasite. I'm glad she enjoyed it. That's really interesting. I would love to hear her commentary on that movie. But that's awesome, man. I love me some Parasite. I like to think someone lives in my basement as well. And maybe they do. The next one comes from Alec McCutcheon, 1261. How's it going, Alex? And thank you for the question. Merry Christmas, John. Glad to see you're doing well, and glad to see you doing YouTube. Hope life treats you well in 2026. Well, Alex, thank you for the very heartfelt comment. Thank you so much, man. And I hope you have a good Christmas too, Alex, and an even happier New Year. And I hope all of you have a great 2026. I really do. I just hope 2026, as far as life goes, I hope it's better. But most importantly, I hope cinema is better in 2026. I really do. I hope this is the year of the best movies we've seen in the last decade. Or at least I hope it is. But anyway, thank you so much, Alex. And Merry Christmas. And keep the change, you filthy animal. All right, let's go to the next one. And the next one comes from Night King 01, who says, someone is impersonating me. I love you, John. I honestly thought someone hacked my PayPal. I know you never say those cruel, bad things to me. But either way, thank you, man. I was half sure it wasn't you. But now I'm not sure of anything. Hey, listen, if you want to send me a super chat and call me names or tell me I suck or blow, by all means, please do. I love it. Keep them coming, baby. All right. Sal says, do you miss your early YouTube days? Yes. I sometimes I reminisce about those where you're younger, your frontal cortex is a little bit softer, and you're willing to say and do anything without putting much thought into it. And yes, I do. It was just pure creativity and an escape away from life. It was my creative outlet. And this is still my creative outlet. All week, I'm pent up with all these opinions about movies and life, and I get to give them to you guys during a live stream. It's very therapeutic. But going back to my early days on YouTube, I look back on some of those videos, and some of them are cringy as shit, but some of them I'm just like, I'm glad I made that, and it exists somewhere in the zeitgeist. So, yeah, I'm proud of that, Even if it's cringy, I'm still proud of it. But yeah, I do remember the early days of YouTube. It felt like there was more camaraderie on YouTube. There was less people making videos. And the thing I liked most about it was, I don't know, it just felt like everything you made on YouTube sort of felt like it had a longer life, or longer shelf life to some degree. All right, Skylar Wheelock back again says, there are some strong rumors Blockbuster is returning soon as a streaming service. How do you feel about that? Would you subscribe? I think a lot of people would pay for the nostalgia. Would there still be late fees if you don't virtually return the movie? That is glorious. Well, I will say this. As far as name recognition goes, the fact that there isn't a Blockbuster streaming service is a bit baffling, isn't it? Like, we have shitty streaming services. We have things called Max. We have Tubi. We have all these other streaming services. But the one that would have the most name recognition when it comes to movies, outside of Netflix right now, would be Blockbuster, who at one point had the option to buy Netflix and completely take over their business model. But for some odd reason, they just didn't do it. But I really think if Blockbuster was a streaming service and they had a great selection of films, I think that would be a streaming service that had name recognition that might get people's attention. But the thing is, they're going to have to offer something different on it. And what I think they're going to have to offer is, after you're done watching a movie on the Blockbuster streaming app, is you literally have to physically rewind the movie. You have to rewind the movie. And every time you physically rewind the movie, you get some kind of digital credit through the app. That's what I want to see. But that could work. It could. But, I don't know. I was trying to think how do you beat Netflix at this point? I don't think they can. I really don't. Unless like 5 other studios team up and they combine all their forces and make a new streaming app called Blockbuster, maybe it would have a chance, but I don't know what you would offer on it to justify like also getting a Blockbuster streaming app. So I don't know. That is intriguing. It's probably not going to happen. I didn't watch the Jake Paul fight. I saw him get punched in the face. That was great. I just wish Mike Tyson didn't pull his punches on his fight and punched him in the face and bit off his ear. That would have been better. The next one comes from a Butterscotch 181 who says, "Hey John, finally getting a chance to catch you live. Wouldn't mind a Buffalo Bill interacting with a Pigeon Lady impression. Merry Christmas." Man, I don't know how to do that. Okay, the only thing I can think of is Buffalo Bill puts the Pigeon Lady in a well down in his basement. It puts the soap on the skin. It puts the soap on the skin. It puts the fucking soap on the skin! Or else it gets the bird shit again. I don't know, man. Listen, that's all I got. That's all I got. Listen, if I was Buffalo Bill and I captured the Pigeon Lady, I would never let her in my house first and foremost. I would never want her skin. Even if I was going to cut it off and make a lampshade out of her nipples, I would not want the Pigeon Lady's skin anywhere near me. You could never get the scent of pigeon shit off of that stuff, first and foremost, okay? But let's talk about the Pigeon Lady, shall we? I think the only thing you can do with the Pigeon Lady, if you were to abduct her, is put her in a vat of acid. Just dispose of her completely. That's the best thing for society. I blame COVID on the Pigeon Lady, all right? All that bird shit, spreading it around, that filth. Ugh. Anyway. You know what I like to think? This is what I like to think. After Home Alone 2 ends and the credits roll, and Kevin leaves the pigeon lady down there in Central Park with that little turtle dove, that little Christmas ornament that belongs on a Christmas tree because, keep in mind, Kevin, who comes from a very wealthy family, who's staying in a penthouse apartment with a lot of presents, and he also has access to his dad's credit card, the only thing he thought to get the pigeon lady, who's an old lady covered in bird shit, alone in a park, cold, who sleeps on rocks, was to give her a Christmas ornament. Now, that is not very useful. I will say that, okay? But beyond all those things, after the credits roll at the end of Home Alone 2, I like to think afterwards, Kevin goes back up to his penthouse hotel and enjoys Christmas with his family, and then Pigeon Lady spends Christmas cold and alone in Central Park, and she's later hit by a bus walking across the street, and that's the end of the Pigeon Lady. And I think that would be the most fulfilling ending to Home Alone 2. That's at least what I like to think. Because her still existing out in Central Park, just like listen, I'm here in Central Park with my family. I don't want to look at you covered in bird shit, lady, okay? Take that shit somewhere else, all right? You're disgusting. So anyway, what was the question again? Yeah, Pigeon Lady was patient zero. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from the Pigeon Lady. Oh, no, I'm kidding. It comes from... But anyway, thank you, Butterscotch, for the question. Thank you so much. All right, the next one comes from Bob, once again, who says, a few streams ago, you mentioned giving Welcome to Derry one more chance and never mentioned the show again. Was it a dud? I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't really have any inclination to watch Welcome to Derry. I don't really want to watch 8 episodes of that. Now, I heard the last episode was good. I saw a clip of it, but it really felt like they were trying to make like they wanted it to be kind of like a Stranger Things with more of a horror element in it. And I get those things, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get into it at some point. Maybe I won't. You know what I do? I sit back and look at the conversation happening after a TV show ends. And I don't really hear a lot of people saying, yeah, you got to watch Welcome to Derry. I just hear some people say, yeah, it was pretty good. It was okay. I liked it. That's all I hear. And judging by like the first 2 episodes, I don't know if it's the tone or the child acting I would like to see for 8 episodes, but maybe I'm being overly picky. I don't know. All right, the next one comes from Alex McCutcheon, who says, you always miss my chats. What are you talking about, Alex? I'm reading your chat right now, man. And I read the one earlier. I never missed your chats. I've read every single one of them tonight. I'm sorry, Alex. But I'm seeing this chat right now. Now, sometimes if you think I missed something from you guys, just give me a minute to get there. Because you got to keep in mind, I'm still 20 minutes behind on the chats, okay? All right, the next one comes from Caleb, once again, who says, thanks, John, for the answer. I'm doing some work and listening to the live show with a 40-minute delay. I promise I don't have a basement, but I can't promise anything beyond that. Well, hey, that's good enough for me, man. You buy me a plane ticket, a hotel, and you pay the inspection fee, and I will come and inspect your home for you, okay? Well, thank you, Caleb. Thank you so much. But I wish you did have a basement. The next one comes from Chad Hagen, who says, is Devil Wears Prada 2 going to be worth it? Well, that's a question every man has to ask himself. Do you want to watch Anne Hathaway in a comedy movie about fashion? I thought the first Devil Wears Prada was okay. Do I need another one? Probably not. Will I watch it? Maybe, but I don't really give a shit either way. But I will check it out at some point, maybe. Ryman 6000 says, Merry Christmas, John. Have you ever played a video game that had immersive storytelling? Well, some of the earlier Call of Duty games sort of had like a Michael Bay-esque action vibe to them. what did I play? The second or third Resident Evil game that had sort of like an immersive kind of tone and atmosphere to it. I'm trying to think of a game I've played that had a really good story. I mean, is Mario saving the princess at multiple castles not compelling enough for you? Let me think here. Gosh, I'm trying to think of a game that like had a great story. I don't know. I'm trying to think, man. I don't know if I have one off the top of my head. That's a good question. But I'm trying to think of a game that had a great story. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I didn't really get into the Last of Us games, so that's the thing. Like I know games that have good stories, but I never like got into them and played them extensively. Yeah, God of War, never got into it. Eternal Darkness, never got into it. Dustin Rich says, welcome to Derry, the Sydney Sweeney bio. Oh, yeah. Now, if it had Sydney Sweeney in it, we could probably watch it. All right, the next one. But by the way, Ryman, thanks for the question. I wish something like Zombies Ate My Neighbors had a better story to go along with it. And by the way, I wish we got a modern day video game of that. Make that the next series, HBO Max. Red Dead Redemption, I played for like 2 hours, Red Dead Redemption 2, just a couple months ago. And I got to the point where I was riding a horse for like 20 minutes. And I was just like, I don't want to keep doing this. And I shut it off. And I never went back to it. I think ultimately the best story in a video game is Pac-Man. Do we all agree? All right. But thanks for the question, Ryan, man. Thank you so much. All right, the next one comes from Night King 01. Baby, here it goes. You know what's funny about Home Alone 2? Marv gets hit with bricks, gets electrocuted, falls off a building, but the only injury that affects him is when he twisted his ankle on the board at the toy store. He runs with a limp the rest of the film. That's a good point. That is a great point. You are right. Hey, okay, at least they gave us that, though. Suck brick, kid! Call me the sticky bandit. Okay. Skylar Wheelock back again says, do you ever play Home Alone 2, the game on NES? When you were younger, Tim Curry chases you around and you have to fight him off with a slingshot. That sounds phenomenal. I did play the first Home Alone game on NES, and I remember you basically, like, it's a side scroller, and you go through the Home Alone house, and, like, it's so confusing because you have to, like, enter one room and enter a different direction to get somewhere else in the house. I remember it being the most confusing thing I've ever had to play, and there was no way you could beat potential. There was multiple levels in that game. You just couldn't beat it. And I remember getting so, like, frustrated. I think I rented it, like, 2 or 3 times from the video store, and I just I couldn't get past like level 5 or something. It was the most confusing shit I've ever played. I was like, I just want to go to the 3rd floor. I cannot get there. The salt turns the bodies into mummies. All right, the next one comes from Butterscotch181, who says, just needed a pigeon lady rant, made my Christmas better. Well, thanks, Butterscotch. It's the least I can do, man. We had to get one pigeon lady rant out of the way. It's almost Christmas Eve. Oh my, it is Christmas Eve. Hey, Merry Christmas Eve to all of you. I'm going to blow this one up in the sky. And let's let confetti rain down upon us. All right. But thanks for the question, man. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Thank you. You're too good to me. Too good to me, Butterscotch. I love you, man. Very generous of you. Thank you so much. Where is my leather strap back again says, can you talk about the magic that is Crispin Glover in River's Edge? Also, did you like Dennis Hopper's fake leg in River's Edge? I vaguely remember Dennis Hopper's fake leg. Crispin Glover in River's Edge, if you've never seen the movie, it's an early Keanu Reeves movie, and it's kind of like this weird, dark satire about this guy who kills a girl, but no one seems to take the situation all that serious. It's kind of weird and bizarre. It's a really good movie, some good performances, but Crispin Glover in that movie, he basically just talks like this, man, come on, man, we gotta go. Dude, what are you doing? That's exactly how he talks. But yeah, I've always liked River's Edge. But anyway, thank you for the question. All right, the next one comes from Sal5221 again, who says, what's a song that best describes your life? Ooh, pretty much anything by Kenny Loggins. Probably anything by Kenny Loggins. Basically, what I would like you to do is take the Over the Top soundtrack, and that is my life. That's how I feel. Okay? Like, let's just look at this up. Hang on a second here. Over the Top soundtrack. Here we go. Oh, I love it, man.
This holiday season.
Shut up. All right, hang on. Now, the song by Kenny Loggins called Meet Me Halfway really speaks to me. I think it's beautiful. Here it is. But the most beautiful thing about all of this is you get clips of Over the Top throughout. And you have Kenny Loggins with a mullet and aviator glasses. Look at that. God, they just don't make music like this anymore. Anyway, maybe that. We'll go with that. Let's go to the next one here, and the next one comes from that or Lady Gaga's Poker Face. I think best defined my life. Let's go to the next one here, and the next one comes from Claudia Rogojan, who says, John, you didn't miss anything by not watching Jake Paul's fight. It was mostly just him running around and falling over whenever he got hit. Also, look at his recent Instagram video where his face looks like it was a baked potato. It's hilarious. I've seen that. The other thing about Jake Paul fights, you have to understand, there's a contract that both fighters sign before said fight. And typically something in a contract would consist of like no knockouts allowed or you can't even attempt to do a knockout until like the 5th round or something. Like that's what those kinds of fights have contracts stating. So they're basically theatricality with a little bit of athleticism. They're basically pro wrestling, right? But in my opinion, not as entertaining. But I'm glad he got knocked out. And if he retired, so be it. But you got to listen. But then again, at the end of the day, the dude made hundreds of millions of dollars off these shitty fights. So, hey, good for him. John, favorite Daniel Radcliffe movie? I don't know. Maybe the Harry Potter movies, I guess. I don't know. I was never a huge Daniel Radcliffe fan. I like the one Harry Potter movie where he's basically drunk in half of the scenes, where he's just slurring his words and doing a half-hearted performance. Was that number 7 or 6 somewhere in there? Uranium Cranium says, Highway to the Danger Zone. That's a good song. That's another life-defining song. So yes, I would go with that. John, what is a barber haircut day for you? Excuse me? What does that mean? I don't know. I get my haircut by a girl I've been friends with since 8th grade. And we talk about life and gossip about people that we went to school with and talk shit. And then she cuts my hair, and I pretty much say this every time I go there. I say, hey, listen. Well, she says, do you want it like last time? I'm like, no. I'm like, yes, I want it like last time, but slightly better. But whatever you do, just make me look cool. She's like, okay, I'll do my best. I'm like, thank you. Thoughts on Silence by Scorsese? I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch all of the movie. I watched part of the movie. I just didn't finish it. And that was 5 years ago. Maybe one day I will. So I don't want to give you a critical analysis of said film that I haven't seen all of. But did you like it? Let me know. What's your budget for a haircut? I think the haircut I get's $18, and I always tip like $6, $7, $8. And in my opinion, a great haircut is priceless. This is the shit on top of my head. This is what everyone sees. Like, this isn't like a cheap pair of socks that you can hide in your shoes. No. This is like me. If my haircut isn't up to par, there's nothing that can make you look uglier or more disproportionate or off-putting than a bad haircut. Okay? So you always have to get a top-notch haircut, and I do not put a price on a haircut. I'm actually surprised haircuts cost as little as they still do. So I'm okay with paying like $18, $20 for a haircut. I would pay more, but don't tell my barber that. But I have a slightly better haircut, though. Talking about Paul Allen's, that is. All right, the next one comes from Fidel. How's it going, Fidel? And thank you for the question. Here it is. John, I just finished my Home Alone 1 and 2 rewatch. I'm in an elevated mood, so the pigeon lady appearing made me burst out laughing due to your famous rants. Anyway, I hope you have a magical and mystical Christmas. Well, thank you, Fidel. I'm glad you enjoyed the pigeon lady. And with all that said, you know what? It is Christmas Eve. I have yet to watch Home Alone 2 this year. I watched Home Alone 1. It's time to go to Home Alone 2. But I will do this when the pigeon lady comes on screen. If I'm eating, I always stop eating. She ruins my appetite. She utterly disgusts me. I literally have a gag reflux that's been heightened and induced by watching the pigeon lady on screen for so many years. Just thinking about it, okay. But anyway, man, I'm glad you enjoyed Home Alone 1 and 2, and I'm glad you're in a heightened mood, and I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. But thanks for the question, man, and Merry Christmas to you. Aw, that party popper broke. The string broke off. You know what's crazy about this, guys, is I gotta grab more party poppers. Hang on. Dun, 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 dun. It's Santa Flick now. All right. So anyway, man, thank you for the question. There you go. Ooh, that was a juicy party popper. That one was just waiting to explode. All right. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, Pigeon Lady tells Kevin to do one good deed before Christmas, so he makes the righteous decision to execute the wet bandits. They kind of frame it like a revenge movie where he's consistently running. Listen, there's nothing better than a cat and mouse movie, and that's kind of what Home Alone 2 is to a certain degree, absolutely. You know, the thing is about Home Alone 1 and 2, like, obviously the first one's the better one. It's the better film, but gosh golly gee whiz, with all the shit I talk about the Pigeon Lady, I think the second Home Alone movie, anytime I'm in the mood to watch Home Alone, I kind of just want to watch the second one. It gives you a little more variety. You got pizza in there. You got New York City. The backdrop's a little more exciting. You got the one guy named Fred. And you were smooching with Fred. No, it ain't true. And you got Tim Curry, who plays like a child predator in the movie. And hear me out for just 1 second. But gosh, golly gee whiz. If I was a 40-something-year-old man and I had a sneaking suspicion that this 9-year-old boy was staying at a hotel by himself, okay, got it, so be it. The last thing I would probably do is sneak into that little boy's room, and especially if I heard the shower running, keep walking towards said shower to watch him shower and then catch him in the act. What was Tim Curry going to do if Kevin McAllister was in that shower bathing and it wasn't an inflatable clown? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Was Tim Curry's character in Home Alone 2 more than just a manager of a hotel? Was he a predator of sorts? That's the real villain of that story, if you ask me. Let's keep going. And the next one comes from Claudia Rogajan. And he says, I forgot to say it in the last chat, but did you think Jake Paul is ruining boxing with these shitty fights? Also, people are saying that the fight between him and Mike Tyson was rigged and they don't allow Mike to go full power like he wanted. Absolutely. The fight between him and Mike was absolutely rigged. I don't care what anyone says. Show me the contract that both fighters signed. Show me that. Mike Tyson, you could tell, was literally holding his punches back. There was like 10 times he could have swung and he just simply didn't. He was biting his boxing glove to keep himself from swinging his boxing glove at Jake Paul's face. Yes, I think the fights are rigged. I think some fighters sandbag. And I think contractually they get a bigger payday if they lose said fight. So yeah, I think they're rigged. But then again, boxing it's all about names and entertainment. So, you know, I just don't buy into it too much. Uranium Cranium says, you also get Eddie Bracken in his final on-screen performance. From what? What are we talking about? Xavier the One says, damn, John, you do ignore me, brother. I love every time I read a comment, it's always that. Oh, John, show your wife Friday After Next. Out of all the movies, oh, well, it is a Christmas movie, isn't it? That's where you have Terry Crews playing a, he's on the down low, to say the least. Christmas After Next, Friday After Next kind of sucks. It really does. Probably my least favorite of the franchise. But I did show her Friday. We quite enjoy that movie. You ain't got no job. It's Friday. All right. Libby Film says, John, do you think I have any chance with Sydney Sweeney since she won't date anyone in Hollywood? Maybe, possibly. Maybe. Like, I don't know. Maybe. Just try, man. Shoot your shot. All right. I'm going to answer just a few more questions for tonight, guys. But I do want to say thanks thus far for all the questions. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Once again, thank you guys. You guys were too generous tonight. But if you guys have any other questions, we can keep talking about movies for the next couple minutes. Xavier the One says, thank you, John. Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you. And actually, you know what? I think with one more sip of this caffeinated energy drink here, and since we are on Christmas Eve now, and we have been talking for 3 hours and 17 minutes, I think maybe, just maybe, we wrap up the live show right here, right now. But I do want to say this. Oh, okay. I do want to say this. I do want to say I hope you guys have a magical and mystical Merry Christmas this year. I hope you guys get everything you want. And if you were very good this year, Santa might just give it to you. And I like to think I tried to give you what I could tonight. My gift to you was absurdity and party poppers. That's all I have to give you. And my annoying voice. Anyway, Nevermind Gaming says, was SmackDown worth watching? The only great thing about SmackDown that was pre-recorded when I watched it live on Friday, that you're going to watch next Friday, was the Carmelo and Ilya Dragunov match. That match is awesome. Top tier, back and forth, great match. Definitely recommend watching that match. Best thing about SmackDown. It was the best thing about the entire night for me. And like that was the first time I was really into Carmelo Hayes as a wrestler. So definitely look out for that match. I think you'll enjoy it. As always, guys, I'm going to wrap up the live show right there. Just making sure no one gets another last question in. But anyway, guys, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this live stream. And I hope to see you guys very soon with a new one, probably in the new year. Well, actually, that's a lie. The next live stream should be, we might be able to do another live stream on the 26th or the 27th or maybe the 28th. So I will put out a new live stream this upcoming weekend. So don't worry. It won't be long. Okay. Jonas Weathers says, hey man, there's a beverage here. Well, hey man, there's a beverage here. I definitely might put The Big Lebowski in my top 20 movies of all time. That's for sure. Yeah. But anyway, big shout out once again to Butterscotch 181. thank you for being a very generous supporter tonight, and thanks to all of you guys. It does mean a lot, so I do appreciate that. As always, guys, Merry Christmas, have a great night, and don't forget to leave it those cookies and whole milk for Santa Claus, or whatever guy breaks into your house that night, leaves presents under the tree. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next year. And by next year, I mean this weekend. We'll probably be talking about Stranger Things Season 5, Part 2. So yeah, that'll be the main topic of discussion this weekend. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho.